Illustration of Hollywood. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 102. The first choice of Joker also flew away. Why did Cameron Diaz take the initiative to date Wayne? It was definitely not some bullshit affection. Maybe there was a part of the factor of being attracted to each other, but most of it was money and hype. It is difficult for actresses to maintain their exquisite life. From cosmetics to clothes, these are relatively large expenses. And Wayne bought her a full set of Channel of the Season for the first time. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is nothing to Wayne now, but it is a big number for Cameron Diaz, a little actor. Honey, you are so hot today. Wayne carefully observed the woman sitting cross-legged next to him. The tight jeans and t-shirt made her look sweet like a girl next door. You give me a very different feeling, completely different from the model in my impression. Cameron Diaz sipped the cold juice while reaching out to tease the two golden retrievers. What do you think models are like? Drinking, taking drugs, smoking, having a decadent private life, or all kinds of lesbians? No, you think too much. What I mean is that you are not as thin as common models. At least you can't see your ribs. When Wayne heard her talk about this, although he misunderstood what she meant, it made him more interested. But, are those things you said common in the modeling circle? In this environment, models who can get to the top must have self-control, right? She put down the drink in her hand, let out a long breath, squeezed Wayne hard, took off her shoes, and lay down beside him, resting her head on his arm. Looking at this young and masculine face from a close distance, she raised her eyebrows at him. Don't say you don't know. The media has reported a lot of news about you. The popular actress Naomi Watts and the Black Beauty Halle Berry were both models in the past. Oh, at this point, she seemed to suddenly understand something and excitedly fell on Wayne, staring into his eyes. You have a special liking for models. No, it should be models who have just retired from the fashion industry. Because women like us who have just finished our catwalk careers will have more flesh than normal models. Alright, she immediately understood Wayne's aesthetic. That's right, influenced by the Oriental soul. He likes tall, slim and fleshy figures, and doesn't like the bombshell figures that most Europeans and Americans think are sexy. But there is one thing she overlooked. Such women must be beautiful. Not the kind of beauty with three-dimensional facial features that the West thinks. That kind of woman looks too tough in his eyes, but the kind of delicate and soft beautiful face that conforms to the world's aesthetics. Wayne hugged Cameron Diaz's waist to prevent her from rolling down. You have discovered my secret. Be careful that I will kill you. I'm just simply curious, what kind of life do ordinary models have? Life? What? Cameron Diaz looked at him puzzledly without even looking at the big hands wandering around her protruding parts. I haven't seen many models, but they are all excellent women. I believe you can't represent that group, right? They live in the bad environment you mentioned every day. They have no long-term plans and don't care about their future careers. How will they live after retirement? The shelf life of this industry is only a few years. Marry someone while your youth is still here. Cameron Diaz was silent for a while after saying this. This is the only way out for most girls. Why do you want to learn about the modeling industry? Wayne smiled and said to her, sweetheart, because you are a model, even if you are not a model on the catwalk. His words made the girl lying on him curl her lips, roll over, and lie down next to him again. Cameron Diaz knew that, if she only looked at the surface, this was a perfect boyfriend candidate. Even if they had only met a few times, she could see that Wayne was very educated. But she herself was a smart person, smarter than most men. She sensitively discovered one thing when they first met. Wayne's education only existed on the surface. He didn't regard women as equals to talk to. From Wayne's casual gaze, she found that he looked at her like a toy or a pet. So she was very clear-headed. She hoped to get material things and some fame from him. Wayne got her body and some dignity. This was essentially an exchange, but this man might have a better reputation. If he was happy, she could get more. Therefore, Cameron Diaz always reminded herself not to believe his sweet words. Remember what I said to you last time. Cameron Diaz mentioned the message she left at the door of the apartment when she sent her home last time. I said at the time that you can find me anytime you want. However, I recently auditioned for a movie and I'm the heroine. Although the cost is not too high, this is also my opportunity. If you have time, you are welcome to visit me at any time. Heroine, new movie? Wayne's rubbing hands paused. Yes, this girl is about to become famous. A movie changes your life. No. Wayne suddenly sat up. What's wrong? Is there a problem? She was shocked to see Wayne's big reaction. He took a cigarette from the table, lit it silently, shook his head and said, "Nothing, I just thought of something else." At this moment, Wayne was screaming in his heart, "Damn it, it's too late, my clown is gone." If you ask who is the first choice to play the clown in this era, the best candidate in Wayne's mind is Jim Carrey. Anyone who thinks that this guy is only good at acting in comedies is stupid. Jim Carrey's life is a clown plot. He started performing since he was a child, and he is particularly good at using exaggerated facial expressions and body language. When he was a little older, he started to perform funny performances and talk shows in clubs and bars. If he hadn't suffered from depression later and encountered his girlfriend's suicide one after another, he would not have disappeared so early. Some netizens in later generations have concluded that Jim Carrey is more suitable for the clown than Joaquin Phoenix because he has been a clown since he was a child. The movie you took is called The Mask, right? Wayne was not discouraged and finally confirmed it. Yeah, how do you know? It seems that he can only consider others. Things don't always go his way. Looking at this sweet and sexy beauty, Wayne decided to find something to do to vent his depression. I just heard it occasionally. There are generally no secrets in this circle. He observed the surroundings. When Cameron Diaz came, the security guards and gardeners disappeared automatically, and Heller and his wife hid in the main building. Reaching out and gently wandering along her thighs, he casually asked, "You told me on the phone that there are some new tricks here." Cameron Diaz was startled. Even if she was unrestrained and hot, she still had to save face. "Daddy, it seems that you are not only rude, but also a little perverted." After that, she slowly took off her clothes. Hot coffee in the sunny afternoon, the two golden retrievers were too disturbed to bear it, and they had already staggered back to the main building. Under the large parasol, the two were covered with a blanket, and looked at the garden in front of them calmly. "Are you hungry?" Just when Cameron Diaz was about to fall asleep, she heard Wayne's question. "It's okay, we can wait until dinner time." Wayne pressed his aching waist, climbed up from the chair, and began to put on his clothes. This woman was skilled, but she was also very outgoing, which made him feel that he might have gone too far, but this girl didn't care. "Go back to the room and take a shower. You can tell the housekeeper what you want for dinner, and she will prepare it." The two walked back slowly, and as soon as they entered the living room, they found Jimmy and Nina staring at the TV. Wayne looked at the girl next to him, pointed upstairs, and asked her to take a shower first. "When did you come? Jimmy, why didn't you call?" He sat next to the agent and asked in a flat tone. Jimmy's expression was full of helplessness. Looking at his playboy client, how should he answer this? Should he just say, "I came in by myself when I saw you and that girl having a crazy mess in the garden"? Call? You, the boss, are messing around in front of the garden. Who do you expect to dare to disturb you with a phone? Nina? Or surgery? Jimmy was madly complaining about Wayne in his heart, but his face was expressionless, as if he hadn't seen anything. According to John, Warner Brothers will soon approve it. Take a look at this. There is a resume and videotape submitted by a commercial director. If you want to decide on an assistant director before signing the contract, you can consider him. Without paying attention to Wayne's question, Jimmy pointed to the things he brought and talked about business. He knew that, as long as he entered the working state, his client would concentrate all his energy and would not pay attention to anything else. "Nina." Wayne handed the videotape to his assistant and sat on the sofa watching her tinkering with the VCR. Not long after, a music video appeared on the screen. This was a perfume advertisement. It would never be so long on TV. It was obviously edited by the director himself. After the perfume advertisement, there was another music video that was not much different. This time it was for cosmetics. Wayne watched patiently, from the shooting techniques to the arrangement of lighting and camera positions, and comprehensively analyzed the director's original intention of shooting. After the 2 commercials, there was a short clip of experimental footage shot and edited by the director himself. The 2-minute clip was full of seriousness and darkness, and there were 2 bloody shots. When Nina saw this, she turned her head away. She didn't like this kind of shot, which made her feel sick. But she saw her boss's face full of appreciation, nodding from time to time. It wasn't until snowflakes appeared on the TV screen that Wayne asked Jimmy, "This director has obviously investigated me and put a lot of thought into it. What's his name?" "Zack Snyder." Seeing the satisfied look on his face, Jimmy continued, "He's in New York now, and he's a director shooting commercials." Chapter 103, Dawn of the Dead. Zack Snyder. Wayne was shocked when he heard the name. "Give me the resume." He pointed to the information Jimmy brought. When watching the videotape just now, Wayne just thought that this director was talented and smart and knew to understand his shooting habits before applying. Now it seems that it is not all to please himself. If it is Zack Snyder 30 years later, there must be no problem with his ability. I wonder how much the current director can compare to his peak performance. There is a photo attached to the resume. The white baseball cap covers the messy brown hair, and there is a silly smile on his face. Wayne was amused when looking at this photo. When Zack Snyder was young, he didn't look like a big director at all. Instead, he looked like an artistic youth. But he obviously overlooked that. If you only look at his appearance, he doesn't look like a director who likes to shoot large-scale black films and play with human nature. Zack Snyder was born in Wisconsin on March 1, 1966, and graduated from the Art Center College of Design. He started working as a photographer and director in 1990, and now mainly shoots commercials and singers MTVs. Jimmy introduced his situation softly while watching Wayne flip through his resume. There were many works on it, but they were mainly commercials. "Hey, there's no need to say more about these." He threw his resume on the coffee table, leaned against the back of the sofa with his arms folded across his chest, and tapped his arms lightly with his fingers. "This Zack Snyder is also considered a successful commercial director, right? He just came to Hollywood, and it is estimated that his income is much less than those things he shot. Would he be willing to do it? A novice assistant director shooting a movie will not be treated much better than an intern. Hollywood production companies don't care how successful your previous commercials were. They only look at the commercial ability of the movie. This is a circle where capital pursues successful people. As long as you have box office success in a movie, you are capital. Warner Brothers will unconditionally support him, but will not unconditionally believe in a newcomer. He will be willing. I just sent out the news through the company and received these." Jimmy pointed at his resume and pointed at the finished videotape. Obviously he has been waiting for the opportunity to enter Hollywood, and this person has obviously paid attention to you. Ask him to come to Los Angeles tomorrow to talk, and ask him to bring him directly to the manor. If it is suitable, I will have to find a way to convince Warner. As far as the current situation is concerned, Zack Snyder may be the best candidate, but we still have to see the other party's attitude. Wayne actually didn't know what would happen if he brought Zack Snyder into Hollywood 10 years earlier, but he would be foolish not to use this person who is very likely to fit his filming concept and has absolute potential. "Okay, I'll contact him when I get back." Jimmy nodded, packed up his briefcase, and stood up to leave. This afternoon gave him a bit of stimulation. As soon as he entered the manor, he watched a filming scene that could only appear in the San Fernando Valley. Jimmy roared in his heart, "This damn capitalism." He was both envious and helpless. Men work hard in this circle, isn't it, for these things? Apart from power, money and female stars, there is really nothing else that can stimulate these successful people. Do you think highly of this director? Nina took out the tape from the VCR and put it together with the resume. Thinking back to the films that Zack Snyder had shot later, Wayne was particularly sure that he might be more in line with his style than his senior Luke. What? It was not the first time that Nina had seen the boss's problem of being distracted when thinking about something. Sometimes he would even get his fingers burned by burning cigarette butts. She repeated it directly. "You seem to think highly of this advertising film director? I don't understand what he shot. It was all black and bloody. I don't know what he wanted to express. The assistant's confused look reminded Wayne of his college life. The experimental short films he shot since his freshman year were just like this. Experiments, of course, were mainly for their own purposes. At that time, several professors thought he had gone astray, and only Professor Anderson Horowitz understood his lens language. Nina, this is just an experiment, Wayne explained with a smile. And this is also a little test for me. If I can't understand his lens language, it means I'm not a director he can trust to work with. If you've seen my short films in college, you'll find that they're all the same stuff. Jimmy was almost scared away by me, because I was shooting these all day long. Hey, honey, are you done? As soon as Wayne finished speaking, Cameron Diaz stood at the corner of the second floor and waved to him. Okay, come down. It seems that this woman is obviously very discerning. She should have walked to the second floor a long time ago and waited until the agent left before speaking. Nina looked at the easy girl in the gossip tabloids and stood up to go to the guest room on the second floor. She knew her boss was capable and didn't want to get in the way. Hi, Ms. Clean. Cameron Diaz, wearing a large bathrobe, greeted the assistant after walking down the stairs. She knew that this plain-looking girl was the one Wayne really trusted. Hello, Ms. Diaz, nice to meet you. Nina stood up and was about to leave, but she had to stop and shake her hand. You guys are busy. I'll go upstairs to check on the two little guys. If they bite the furniture, the boss might be heartbroken. Wait, Nina. Wayne called her. I remember you haven't been shopping for a long time, and no one is chasing you, and you don't have a boyfriend. This sentence almost made Nina go crazy. She either stayed in the manor every day or followed Wayne wherever he went and had to help him communicate with lawyer Ryan and accountant Colin at any time. How could she have time to find a boyfriend? Now she rarely goes back to the rented apartment and simply lives in the manor. Anyway, since the incident, when she happened to take pictures of Hallberry, the boss's attitude towards her has changed a lot, and no one has any objections to eating and living here. Regardless of his assistant's reaction, Wayne quickly went upstairs to the study, took out a card from the desk drawer, and came back to put it in Nina's hand. I need to think about something. Take Cameron Diaz for a walk, and buy yourself some clothes and bags. Your boss just got a big payday. You don't need to save money for him. The credit limit is $200,000. Go ahead. Nina stared blankly at the black card in her hand. It was a black Wells Fargo credit card. She might never have the chance to earn one in her lifetime. Boss, you're so cool. Wayne didn't hear the assistant yell until he reached the second floor. He shook his head and smiled as he walked into the bathroom, ready to take a shower. He wouldn't be stingy with a woman like Cameron Diaz, let alone a real friend. Nina's salary was no less than that of a small company executive. With hot water spraying on his head, Wayne whistled in the mirror. The sudden appearance of Zack Snyder overwhelmed the depression of losing the assistant director and the Joker. Come on, screw Dawn of the Dead. Come on Zack, skip those and go straight to your destiny. It was not until the bright sunshine in Los Angeles faded and the night slowly fell that the two women came back with big and small bags. Even Sergey, who drove them, followed behind with a look of despair on his face and holding his handbags in both hands. It seems that it is right to give benefits to the assistant occasionally. Looking at Nina, whose work enthusiasm has obviously improved, Wayne shook his head while sitting at the dining table. Not only was the assistant radiant, but Cameron Diaz was also too enthusiastic. As soon as she came to the third floor, she took the initiative to lie down next to Wayne's ear and whispered something. Her words made Wayne very excited. Facing Cameron Diaz's hotness that could melt everything, he picked her up and walked into the bathroom to start a more daring game. The next morning, when Wayne came back with two golden retrievers, Cameron Diaz left the huge manor with the harvest of yesterday's half day and began to prepare for the heroine of the comedy called The Mask. While Wayne was still waiting for news from Warner Brothers, Iwan Martin was also talking about his alternative commercial film director in his office on the third floor of CAA, not far from the Warner building in Burbank. Mel, Wayne Greenberg rejected my offer, so give up on that idea. He is not a director who can share power with others. Sitting at Iwan Martin's desk was none other than Australian movie star and director Mel Gibson. Chapter 104 Director Zack is here. Some people may not like Mel Gibson's rudeness and some of his radical remarks, but no one has ever questioned his talent and intelligence. He is a very smart Australian wild donkey. I have news that the reason why Warner Brothers did not quickly approve Wayne Greenberg's new project is because of financial constraints. They have 3 first-line productions this year. One of the first-line productions that has already been prepared is The Pelican's Assassination Order. Denzel Washington and Julia Roberts have already joined the crew. Their salaries have raised the production costs too much. Not to mention that there are several second and third line projects with not a small amount of investment. Mel Gibson's tone was very calm when talking about business, and he was completely different from the rude words and deeds after drinking. Warner Brothers is stepping up financing. Originally, I thought that if we could win over Wayne Greenberg as director, we might be able to intervene in this project with a high success rate. Now it seems that there is little hope. As Mel Gibson's main co-managing agent, Ivan Martin's plan with his client this time can be regarded as a purpose. If Wayne Greenberg can be attracted by the Oscar gimmick, he can not only hit his main competitor in the company, but also smoothly promote the package service he advocates. And his condition is actually that Mel Gibson will join the group as a producer and participate in the production of this new project. This will make the film production funds abundant and can quickly start the pre-production. Mel Gibson has no good impression of this director, but he is very concerned about his news. Anyone who thinks that this Australian is brainless is really brainless. He can always be successful in Hollywood with his rebellious character, relying on his smart mind. Let's do this for now. Since there is no chance, forget about this matter. I have a hunch that this kid will succeed this time. He is at the most energetic and creative time of a director. Mel Gibson stood up, buttoned his suit, and prepared to leave. This matter itself is a loophole. If it succeeds, it will be good, and if it fails, it will not lose anything. Are you sure he will continue to succeed? Ivan Martin asked uncertainly. It's very likely. Irving, I'm also a director. I understand his state. After saying that, he nodded, turned around and left the office, while Irving Martin fell into thought. Los Angeles International Airport, which the locals call LAX. Zack Snyder silently dragged his suitcase and walked out of the airport with a tired face. He walked to the door of the lobby and put the luggage into the trunk with the help of the black taxi driver. Beverly Hills. Zack Snyder sat in the back and told the driver the destination. 72 Mulholland Drive, Greenberg Manor. Okay. The black guy started the car very neatly, turned his head and drove towards Beverly Hills. He looked at the rear view mirror from time to time. The guest's dress did not look like a rich man who could live there. Yo, man. The black guy showed his big white teeth and smiled at Zack Snyder through the rear view mirror. What are you doing in Beverly Hills? Don't look at me like that. If you can live there, you will never take a taxi in your life. Zack Snyder was not used to the other party's familiar tone, but after looking at his skin color, he still said, go apply for a job. After that, he looked out the window, obviously not wanting to chat with a stranger. He was also full of trepidation about this rare opportunity, and he was not sure if he could meet the other party's requirements. He was confident in his professional skills and happened to have studied 2 films of Wayne Greenberg. Zack Snyder admired this director who was a few years younger than him. The other party was able to make his first feature film before graduating from college, and with very little investment, he won a huge global box office. His talent and courage made many directors ashamed. This included Zack Snyder. Thinking about how he was still wasting time in the advertising industry and the distance between him and film directors was not short-end at all, he felt more and more frustrated. He is not a person who can't wait. On the contrary, he has always been very confident and believes that with his current accumulation, he will sooner or later break into Hollywood. Opportunities always come inadvertently. A friend heard the news released by Jimmy and notified him immediately. This is why Zack Snyder reacted so quickly, because he has been prepared for the opportunity. The car stopped outside the iron gate of the manor, and the black guy turned back and reminded him, yo, buddy, I can't get in here, I can only take you here. I'll go in by myself, thank you. Zack Snyder nodded and handed the other party a Franklin. No need to change it. Carrying a suitcase, he walked directly into the gate of the manor, and after explaining the purpose of coming here to the security guard, he followed the security guard into this huge manor. Along the way, Zack Snyder silently observed everything: the beautifully trimmed large garden, the neat lawn, the fountain on the small square, and the classical marble main building, all of which brought him a deep shock. Although he was not short of money and the remuneration for shooting commercials and MTVs was not low, he had never thought of owning a house like this. These were still very far away from him. When they arrived at the main building, Hella sent away the security guards and took him into the spacious living room. Mr. Greenberg is on the 3rd floor. Wait a minute. He will be down soon. What would you like to drink? Hella said softly, after arranging him to sit down. Coffee, thank you. Hella brought him coffee and found that he seemed very nervous. He put his hands on his knees and kept rubbing them unconsciously. Zack Snyder? Hello, nice to meet you. Not long after, Wayne, who was wearing loose home clothes, came down. When he saw the young version of Zack Snyder, he took the initiative to extend his hand. Taking a deep breath, Zack Snyder shook his hand. Hello, Director Greenberg. Sit down. Sorry to have you rush over from New York. As soon as he saw his tired face, Wayne knew that he must have flown here as soon as he received the news. My time is very tight, so I have to communicate with you as soon as possible. The new project may start preparations at any time, and the assistant director needs to be decided as soon as possible. It's okay, you can ask any questions you have. Zack Snyder looked serious. He knew the test was coming soon. 2 things. First, if you come to be my assistant director, you can't get a high salary. Warner Brothers will not offer a high price to a novice. It will be much less than what you make from shooting commercials. In fact, in order to convince Warner to use you, you still need to communicate with them. Zack Snyder had no requirements for income, and he was ready to start from scratch. These were sacrifices that had to be made, so he nodded directly to indicate that he could accept it. The second point is about the filming. I need a stable crew. Your work will be very hard, not just coordinating the filming issues. Any other work. Yes, if possible, you will even have to care about the crew coordination, as well as the relationships between various staff members, and deal with some big and small emergencies. You need to learn to do all these jobs. Don't worry about the qualifications. I will definitely serve as a producer. Seeing the melancholy look on his face, Wayne knew what he was worried about. It was nothing more than a qualification issue. As long as he served as a producer, no one would challenge his authority. After letting him digest it for a while, Wayne continued, I have to focus all my energy on filming. It's impossible to care about everything. These can only be handed over to my own people, that is, my assistant director. After speaking, he stared into Zack Snyder's eyes until he saw the other party nod and agree. Director Greenberg, call me Wayne. Okay, Wayne, don't you need to examine my filming ability? Aren't you afraid that my filming style doesn't match yours? He asked directly. No, your videotape explains it very clearly. That's enough. After all, I'm the director. We can slowly get used to each other. As long as the production concept is similar, there will be no problem. Wayne laughed. He knew that the matter was basically settled. His assistant director was settled, and he extended his hand to him again. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. It was not until he walked out of the manor that Zack Snyder realized that he had passed the interview so easily. For the time being, he just had to go back to New York and wait for news. Chapter 105 Signing. After the assistant director was chosen, Wayne was relieved, and now he was waiting for the news from Warner Brothers. From the end of July to the middle of August, he was preparing simple storyboards while communicating with Zack Snyder on the phone, discussing the camera positions and shooting techniques. Warner Brothers finally passed the risk assessment, gave the green light on the project review, and notified Jimmy that he could start negotiations on the director's remuneration at any time. Although Wayne was waiting anxiously, he knew that the investment of a large amount of money, even for such a giant company, must go through all the necessary procedures. If, as the legend goes, the CEO of a Hollywood production company can easily decide on a film project with an investment of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, it would not be so troublesome. However, legends are legends after all. Any mature production company has its own set of inspection systems and power constraints, and every investment will be very cautious. I'm going to ask Warner Brothers for a high price for your director's salary. Jimmy was very confident about the business he was good at, and Wayne was also qualified to negotiate the price with them. With your commercial performance, you can basically get the rights of a first-line director, including the final editing rights. I'll leave it to you. You know my bottom line. Professional matters should be left to professionals. Wayne has no objection to these. Jimmy and his interests are tied together, and he will definitely try his best to bite off a piece of meat from the previous company. Moreover, he is no longer the new director who can't find a distributor with a film. If Warner Brothers breaks his bottom line, he is not without the ability to resist. Judging from the commercial performance, he already has the capital to negotiate with major companies. Okay, leave it to me. The two discussed about the film for a while, and Jimmy hurriedly left Wayne's house, went back to organize the information, and prepared to start negotiations with Warner Brothers as soon as possible. After a long period of screening, Get Out has basically been withdrawn from the global market. Only a few remote theaters in North America that Warner has contacted are still showing 1 or 2 shows a day. The film's overseas screenings have all ended, and the global box office has accumulated more than $310 million, which has made major media collectively celebrate. The North American box office has accumulated more than $165 million. Although this number is still growing tenaciously, it will not increase to the level of millions of dollars in the end. It can be said that this is the final number. Amid the media's extensive reports, Wayne has quietly entered the upper class of Hollywood. After Jimmy and Warner Brothers had 2 tentative contacts, the two sides slowly negotiated many conditions. In the final analysis, everything is false, and only interests can make both parties compromise. Get Out has been withdrawn from the global schedule, which has given Warner Brothers great confidence and relaxed the negotiation standards on some unnecessary conditions. In September, after 2 weeks of wrangling, Warner Brothers and Jimmy finally reached an agreement and negotiated a contract with the director. The investment cost of the film Joker is $60 million, and Warner Brothers is fully funded. At the same time, Warner Brothers will also serve as the North American distributor and global distributor of the film. The reason for such a long period of wrangling is that Jimmy shouted out a sky-high remuneration for the director. The first time he negotiated for the director's salary, he called out the 20+20 treatment for top commercial directors, which almost scared Thomas Menz, who was negotiating on behalf of Warner, to death. 20+20. This represents a basic director's salary of $20 million, plus a 20% share of the global box office. The price Jimmy called out was indeed scary, but he also knew that the other party would not agree. Negotiation? Asking for a sky-high price and paying it back. His job is to strive for more profits for his clients. In the trial and error of both parties, they gradually reached a consensus. Wayne is not a novice director, and it is impossible to rely on millions of dollars to get rid of him. Finally, a profit-sharing contract was negotiated again. Wayne can get 10% of the total North American box office after the film is released as a later director's share. Of course, the premise is that the North American box office of the Joker project must exceed 3 times the production cost, that is, $180 million. The box office share is fixed, and there is no incentive fluctuation. As the project initiator, screenwriter, director, and second producer of the film, his basic salary is $10 million, which will be paid in 3 installments, before the filming, after the production is completed, and when the film is released. In fact, Jimmy still wanted to bite off a piece of meat from the film's peripherals, but he was obviously a little whimsical. After feeling the other party's firm attitude, he immediately gave up the idea. The red line of the film company is the peripheral products. If you want to get this part of the income and cross this red line, you must be the top Hollywood commercial film director and superstar. Otherwise, don't even think about it. The income in this aspect is different from the one-time deals such as basic salary and box office share. These film companies guarantee profits. Peripheral income generally does not earn a lot in the short term, but it can be there for many years. as long as the film is still in the copyright library of the production company and brings income to the production company. The director who enjoys this part of the share will receive an endless stream of income and can even pass it on to future generations. The current contract may be a little far from those top directors, but this is already the top director contract in this circle. In order to ensure the smooth operation of the crew, Warner Brothers will once again send Wayne's old friend, John Gray, as the representative and producer of the production company, and will also send 2 assistant directors, who are mainly responsible for assisting the director and producer in the early preparations. One of the assistant directors is the casting director, who will help Wayne and John host the first round of auditions and screen out those unqualified actors. In mid-September, Wayne and his team walked into the large conference room of the Warner Building, where a press conference on the new project will be held. This is a film with an investment of tens of millions of dollars. From the signing of the contract, it has entered the publicity and distribution process. Wayne will never discount the publicity work required by the production company. He comes from decades later and knows too much about the help of publicity and marketing for the film, not to mention that his interests are involved. Normally, Hollywood has a general process for press conferences, and the media and production companies are going through the motions and following the procedures. Wayne smiled and signed the contract with Kevin Tsujihara under the flash, and then exchanged it for the media to take pictures. In fact, the real contract was signed before, and the terms above could not be shown to the media. The current one is just a showpiece to fool people. After the photo shoot, the press conference came to the final stage, which was the reporters' questions. The first person the Warner Brothers staff called on was a female reporter from their own media, HBO TV network news department, who stood up to ask questions. Director Greenberg, is this film still a horror thriller like your previous 2 films? Can you talk about the general theme? After hearing her question, Wayne turned the microphone towards himself, shook his head and said, "No, this film is very different from the previous works. It is not a simple thriller. If you have to distinguish, this should be considered a crime drama. As for the theme, the name of this film is Joker. Yes, it is a clown Arthur from the DC Comics. The theme is how Arthur became the Joker later, and the story of course takes place in Gotham. I will portray a real Gotham for the audience, a metropolis that combines chaos and order." Wayne, doesn't this seem to be the real New York? Bella Grant, an old acquaintance from the Los Angeles Times, the beautiful reporter who wrote the details of Get Out, stood up and asked him. Of course. Wayne directly admitted the other party's guess. If you ask where modern Gotham is, 90% of people will think of New York. But it's still different. It's like an emotionally amplified version of New York. People living there will become different. After thinking for a while, she continued, this film will be shot on location in New York, striving to restore a real Gotham to the audience. Regardless of whether it can be done or not, his words have been spoken, and the publicity effect will be produced. In fact, Wayne knew that it was impossible to shoot all the scenes on location, and he would have to use props to build the scene and CGI synthesis. As soon as the preparatory work began, he would immediately contact Industrial Light and Magic. In this regard, no one would be more professional than them, who only made Star Wars and Indiana Jones. There would not be too many shots required in this regard, so it would not take up too much of the budget. Chapter 106 You Don't Want Oscar. The press conference ended in a harmonious atmosphere, but Wayne was not in a hurry to leave. Kevin Tsujihara said he had something else to talk to him about. After leaving the noisy conference room, Wayne and the CEO of Warner Brothers exchanged pleasantries all the way to his office. After closing the door, Kevin Tsujihara directly expressed his thoughts. Get Out is still showing, Wayne. This film will continue to be shown until the end of the awards ceremony. In fact, he had already noticed that there were still a few theaters in remote areas of Los Angeles that continued to show Get Out, but he didn't expect Warner Brothers to mean this. He asked uncertainly, Oscar? Of course it's Oscar. Warner will do its best to publicize the nominations for Best Original Screenplay and Best Director. You don't have to worry about all of this. You just need to attend the awards ceremony. Kevin Tsujihara smiled confidently. He knew too well the temptation of Oscar to directors and actors in the circle. Although the main purpose was not for Wayne, it didn't stop him from using it to sell it. I'm too young, Kevin. Wayne's tone was calm, and he didn't seem excited at all. "Even if I'm nominated for Best Director, it's too early for me. I'm not in a hurry. It'll take 2 years to accumulate experience. It won't be too late to start when I'm older." Looking at this face without any emotion, Kevin Tsujihara suddenly felt powerless. Not many people can stay sober in front of the Oscars. Even Martin Scorsese, one of the 4 great directors, has always been obsessed with the little golden man. The last director Kevin had seen who could look at the Oscars so calmly was George Lucas, the father of Star Wars and the pioneer of Hollywood commercial films. However, the situations of the two people were completely different. George Lucas withdrew from all unions except the producer, and took the initiative to give up the hope of Oscar, while Wayne was really calm. "Kevin, I propose that all public relations resources be invested in the best screenplay to ensure that we win this little golden man." In fact, this proposal was Wayne's purpose. It was also a little golden man, but the original script would be much simpler and his age would be ignored. What Warner Brothers did was nothing more than squeezing out the last drop of profit from Get Out and taking advantage of the Oscars to sell the videotapes of the film. This is a win-win situation, and Wayne will remember the good things Warner Brothers did. Kevin Tsujihara took a deep look at this face. Okay, Warner Brothers will change its strategy and focus on the best screenplay. In fact, it can be said that Get Out was born at the wrong time. The current atmosphere in North America is not so bad, and Black Lives Matter is still in its infancy, so Wayne is not optimistic about using this film to win an Oscar nomination for Best Director. That's it. I still have to plan the preparations for the film. If you have anything, you can call my agent directly, or call my assistant. After the matter was finalized, Wayne stood up, said hello, and turned around and left. As long as he entered the working state, he would become like a robot and fully devote himself to it. A big reason for his continuous success is that he chose the right film, and it may also be because of his work enthusiasm. Wait, Wayne. Kevin Tsujihara didn't mind his attitude. Talented people always have some quirks. This is very normal for him. There is a good thing for you. You can consider it. Huh? What? Wayne sat back in confusion and looked at the head of Warner Brothers. Kevin Tsujihara leaned forward slightly, and his voice became a little smaller. Warner Brothers will have a round of equity financing next year. If you are interested, you can prepare the funds in advance. Okay, I understand. Thank you, Kevin. You're welcome. Warner is very happy to cooperate with you. Why not let this cooperation continue? Wayne shook hands with him and turned to leave the office. This is actually a big pie. Kevin Tsujihara just revealed some information without paying real money. Do you want to buy Warner's shares and become a personal shareholder of this giant? It's very simple. If you make this big investment project well, you will have everything if it succeeds. If the film fails, then there is no need to mention anything. By then, the CEO of Warner has not promised him anything. He went downstairs while thinking, and after meeting up with the waiting people, he discussed with John directly. We will have a meeting tomorrow. You are responsible for organizing everyone. Well, let's put it here at Warner. Okay, no problem. John has long adapted to his work style. As long as it is beneficial to the production of the film, he will only cooperate with his work, and will definitely fight for power like a fool. He is a relatively gentle producer in front of Wayne, because Wayne's achievements are there. If it were a different director, John would never give so much trust. This is Hollywood, where producers are the center, and the first producer is the one with the most power in the crew. Wayne and John looked at each other, and after confirming that the other's ideas had not changed, and that they were still working as before, they said goodbye to each other, and started their busy work. After getting in the car, ignoring his assistant and agent, Wayne closed his eyes, and leaned on the sofa, and began to sort out all the preparations in his mind. Sergey drove the car steadily. The extended version of Rolls-Royce also had perfect comfort. When Nina arrived at the manor, she found that her boss was snoring happily and had fallen asleep. She looked at Jimmy, pointed at the sleeping boss and asked softly, "Aha, isn't it said that the director and producer will bear heavy pressure from the moment the contract is signed?" Jimmy also had a ghostly expression on his face. He had never seen his clients fall asleep like this before. When the film began to be prepared, He would be like a wound up spring, always checking for omissions and filling in the gaps. I fell asleep. The two people who were flirting with each other saw him wake up with a shiver and stared at him with strange eyes. What? Isn't it just a nap? Wayne opened the car door and walked down, opening his hands and stretching his waist. Call Hallberry and ask her to come to my place to get the script. There are also some things to tell her in advance. Damn it, if she can't pass the first audition like this, then she deserves to never become famous. Okay, I'll call right away. Nina agreed and trotted into the living room. Has Zack Snyder boarded the plane? The two walked in while discussing about the film. He'll be there before dark. Inform him not to come to my place and let him go directly to Warner for a meeting tomorrow. Wayne arranged everything in an orderly manner. He just fell asleep, and it was right after signing the project contract. This was obviously not his workaholic style. The reason was simple, because he was used to living under pressure. This invisible pressure made him breathless at the beginning, and it took Wayne only 2 movies to get used to it. After entering the living room, he didn't care about the assistants at work and squinted his eyes and leaned on the sofa again. According to the contract signed with Warner Brothers, Wayne's core team members will also join the crew to participate in the preparatory content, but one person can't come. Luke went to direct the horror film whose name he had never heard of. The assistant director was replaced by Zack Snyder. The lighting engineer was still the taciturn, but technically competent Steve Wilson, and the main cameraman was still Robert Carlos of CAA. As long as these 3 supervisors are their own people, the crew will basically not be in danger of losing control. No matter how many deputy positions and assistants there are, they can't make any waves. In fact, the editor should be involved as early as possible. Observe the director's production style during the shooting, and the editor will be more comfortable in the later work. Warner's editor is definitely not good. His work is too busy. There are endless films to edit every day. He has no time and energy to follow his crew to observe the shooting. However, this does not affect the overall situation. It's just that the director and producer will be more tired in the later work. Just keep a close eye on the editing work. Shortly after the press conference, news about Wayne's new film appeared in the media. Most media took a wait-and-see attitude towards his new project. This morning, Wayne Greenberg and Warner Brothers Pictures signed a new project cooperation. It is reported that this is a crime drama. DC will soon have a second comic character on the big screen, Arthur the Joker as a villain. The report with such a title was relatively mild, basically just objectively reporting the entire press conference. This kind of film was just prepared and started to be promoted simultaneously, and it was impossible to bombard it. Chapter 107 Indulgence. Warner Brothers is taking a gamble. The production cost of $60 million. For a director who has only directed films with $1 million investment, the heavy production pressure will crush him. Bill Lane. After 2 consecutive small investment successes, Wayne Greenberg has begun to enter a dead end. Warner Brothers' review department May. Joker? The biggest possibility for Wayne Greenberg is to use $60 million to produce a horror film that is not much different from $1 million film. This young director is extremely fond of large-scale bloody shots, which will definitely become his slippery slope. Since there are media that sing praises, there must be media that sing praises. This entertainment city has never lacked people who look down on him. Wayne is like an iceberg that has been drained of seawater, and it suddenly pops up. By the time everyone can see him clearly, he has been occupied by the huge underwater volume of the iceberg. He has had a series of successful films in the past 2 years. While he has gained benefits, he has also invisibly harmed the interests of many people. The plate of Hollywood is so big. If you eat more, others will definitely eat less, or even nothing. That's all. Wayne threw down the newspaper in his hand. There was almost no authoritative media that looked down on him. Most of them were small and medium-sized paper media. Hallberry, who was sitting next to him, also put down the newspaper in her hand and looked at him with a little sympathy. Wayne ignored her expression and lit a cigarette with a calm face. There may be more tomorrow. These are just the media that react quickly. I thought everyone was optimistic about you. I didn't expect so many media to hope that you would fall. Before Hallberry came over, he went to the newsstand to buy these newspapers. He didn't pick those reports that praised this director, but bought a lot of reports that didn't sound so good. This was just her little thought, even if it was to disgust this man. When she asked her to move out, he didn't even show up. It's better not to answer her call. This is a heartless man of ice. When he wants to play with you, he will turn into a perfect boyfriend. When he is no longer interested, he will immediately throw you away like a rag. The only good thing is that this man is trustworthy and will do what he promised. He will not turn his face against you. Harry, I'm not a dollar. I can't make everyone like me. Wayne doesn't care about the media's pessimism. There are topics only when there is controversy. Just think of them as promoting himself. This will only leave a deeper impression on the general fans. In addition, Warner Brothers found through investigation that through the two films, Wayne has a good reputation as a director among young people. The words Wayne Greenberg's works have gradually formed a brand effect among a certain group of young people who like to watch movies. You have a lot of scenes. I'm not worried about your acting skills. This is not a role that allows you to show your acting skills. It's just, as he said, he stretched out his hand to pinch Black Pearl's chin and turned her face. You are too delicate. You need to wear makeup to cover up your face. You don't need to be too pretty for this role. Halle Berry's head swayed left and right with his movements. She didn't care that he was just picking a pet. She just asked nervously, I will pass the audition, right? Only if you enter the second round of auditions. I won't participate in the first round. I have a lot of work to do, and I'm not that free. After letting go of the woman's chin, Wayne still reminded her, find a makeup artist before the audition to cover up your face. It's better to look ordinary. I will say hello to the audition director as long as you don't perform very badly. Thank you, dear. Halle Berry hugged his arm in surprise, with a dazzling light in her eyes. Wayne looked at her and shook his head. Keep your current acting skills. That's enough for this role. Halle Berry didn't care about the attitude of this unromantic man at all. As long as she could get the role, it was enough. She rolled her eyes slightly, leaned over to the man's ear, and whispered a word starting with a, then stood up coquettishly, and walked up the stairs skillfully. Ignoring the woman who was going upstairs, Wayne was still making choices about the film in his mind. If the success of Joker in the future is due to Joaquin Phoenix's performance, it seems that there is nothing wrong. This is a grand one-man show, and the requirements for actors are very high, but there are some things that Wayne must give up for future plans. Who is the most successful Joker? This is really hard to judge. But if we talk about the most successful movies with two Jokers as the protagonists, many people will choose Nolan's Batman and Joker 2019. That's right, in Wayne's view, the Joker is definitely the first protagonist in Nolan's Batman series. He wants to combine some of the advantages of both sides. Arthur can slowly change from an ordinary person to the chaotic Joker, but for future plans, he can't abandon the comic style early like Nolan. This is not just a crime drama. He has to leave enough buckles, and then one day in the next few years, let Warner remember these blank spaces. Hey, honey, aren't you coming up to enjoy your spoils? Halle Berry's charming voice came from upstairs. After looking up at the sky, Wayne walked upstairs with a beast-like smile. Thinking of what she had just said secretly, Wayne decided to put aside the storm in his mind and enjoy the relaxation after busy work. The best channel for men to vent is always women, especially when this woman tries every means to vent for men. After a noisy night, the sunshine in Los Angeles woke Nina through the window. She left a deep shadow last night and also made the little assistant fall into self-doubt. Was it wrong to play with her boyfriend before? The next morning, Nina saw Black Pearl wrapped herself tightly in the sunshine of Los Angeles and limped to the car. Ironically, the Black Beauty had a cheerful smile on her face. Under the strange eyes of the little assistant, Wayne had breakfast with her and got in the car to rush to the Warner building in Burbank. Finally, Wayne couldn't stand being stared at by the assistant anymore. In the car, he said helplessly, "Stop looking at me with that damn look. What's the matter, boss?" Nina reached out and touched her dark circles. There is no partition between the third floor and the second floor. It's a summer night in Los Angeles. I can't close the window. Pa. Wayne slapped his forehead. He understood. Sorry to disturb your rest. I promise that there will never be that kind of noise again in the future. The assistant curled her lips. That kind of noise. No need for the future. This time, it took half of Black Pearl's life. If it happens twice, the girl will probably have no chance to realize her dream of becoming a star. Chapter 108. Add a plug. People will change with the environment. If you look at him from the perspective of Wayne's previous life, he is a scumbag with excessive hormone secretion. As his wealth and power increase, Wayne is less and less willing to restrain his desires. The reaction of the young assistant reminds him that he is still far from the success he imagined, and it is far from the time to indulge in these things. The car stopped at the bottom of Warner, and Wayne got out of the car in silence. Good morning, Director Greenberg. Hi, Mr. Greenberg. As soon as he entered the Warner building, many employees greeted him, as if suddenly the employees of Warner Brothers were much more enthusiastic about him. This situation had never happened before. Is this a change? Wayne walked to the elevator with a stern face, nodding to the people who greeted him along the way. This was the first time he encountered such a situation, so he simply nodded silently when he saw people greeting him. What's wrong with them? Jimmy trotted over and caught up with the two people who were about to enter the elevator. Before he could say anything, he heard his client's question. Ha. The agent chuckled, and he seemed to be in a very good mood. Wayne, you don't understand. Only those who can direct and control the first-line productions in Hollywood can be considered as big directors. Wayne nodded belatedly, and he understood that now he had entered the upper structure of this circle. If I mess up this movie. He adjusted his suit and teased himself cheerfully. Is it still a big director, Jimmy? No, strictly speaking, if your movie can still be successful, you can be considered a first-line director of commercial films. You need to prove yourself in first-line big productions. After all, your style is too weird, and it is not easy for people to judge. But there is a common standard, that is, the box office. Big productions, yes, big productions in this era are only tens of millions of dollars. Hollywood will soon enter the international fast lane and is conquering cities one after another around the world. Looking back in 2 years, the investment cost of this film is at most medium. The conference room arranged by Warner Brothers is not small. In fact, only the bosses of various types of work and the crew can come here to hold preparatory meetings. There will not be too many people. Just like the cameraman Robert who just came in, he only brought one photography assistant, but after the filming started, he had to recruit at least 7 or 8 photographers, some of whom were photography assistants. This is probably the case for every type of work. Being able to participate in projects with a production cost of tens of millions, the bosses of these types of work are basically out of the position of laborers. Hi, Director Greenberg, is it okay for me to sit here? The visitor greeted with a smile, and he obviously knew who was in charge of the crew. Of course, Mr. Keller, the president of DC Comics, came to attend the crew preparation meeting in person, which made Wayne very confused. Are these executives so idle now? If you don't mind, call me Jonathan. The middle-aged white man was a little bald, with a Mediterranean look, but he kept smiling. I hope my coming here won't cause you any trouble. I just want to know the progress of the crew's work as soon as possible. This is very important to you and me, isn't it, Wayne? Wayne thought he had fooled him that day, but judging from this, the head of DC Comics had thought of something when he went back. Okay, Jonathan, whatever you want. At 9 o'clock in the morning, John and Wayne sat at the front of the conference room. They looked at each other and nodded. The staff of Warner Brothers helped to close the door of the conference room. Wayne reached out and knocked on the table hard until everyone's eyes were focused on him. Then he cleared his throat and said loudly, some of you who are working here have worked together more than once, and there are also many new colleagues. I can tell you in advance that I have high requirements for work. If I find that any of you are not worthy of the salary provided by the crew in the future work, I will replace him immediately. John, start. The authority of the crew is very important. He must be the director that everyone is afraid of in order to control everyone and prevent shit from happening during the filming. And John Gray and Zack Snyder are also responsible for communication. In fact, Wayne is now acting like a producer of a normal crew, and John is like a weak film director. In any case, as long as the cooperation is good, there will be no problem. Okay, let me talk about the preparations first. John looked around at the heads around him and took out a few sheets of printed paper. Warner Brothers has already transferred the first $25 million of the project's filming funds to the Merrill Lynch Insurance Crew account. You can withdraw it at any time after the meeting. The Merrill Lynch Insurance employee sitting in the corner of the conference room stood up and signaled to everyone, but did not show too much presence. Seeing everyone looking at him, he shrank back to the corner. As a third-party insurance company, their main task is to monitor the flow of funds for the crew and ensure that the film can be completed within the deadline. After saying this, he looked at Wayne, and after seeing him nod, to show that he understood, he continued, "Now we have enough startup funds. Before the film is officially filmed, Warner will deposit the second sum of funds into the account. I have already issued audition invitations to the Actors Guild and major brokerage companies in the name of Warner. Schwartz, there will be a lot of people in the first round of auditions. You have to pay attention to the screening. Okay." Schwartz Bob, the casting director sent by Warner Brothers, nodded. After saying these 2 points, John looked directly at the director. He was a producer, and the one who presided over all filming and production issues was the film director after all. Wayne sat at the head of the long conference table. His eyes swept around from the end, and everyone he looked at showed a serious expression. Let's discuss the key points of the preparatory work. After the filming of Get Out, he still used the same team as last time. He had experience in cooperation before. After John sent out the invitation, those experienced behind the scenes staff will be in place as soon as possible. Zach, the first person Wayne named, was the new assistant director. The crew will shoot on location in New York for a while. You are familiar with the place. Assist John and arrange the crew's logistics with him, as well as communicate with the city government. No problem. Zack Snyder said immediately, I have been in New York for the past few years. I have had some dealings with the city government because of shooting commercials. You don't have to worry about this. After that, he smiled at the producer John. This is not a trivial matter. After all the personnel are in place, the crew may be as large as hundreds of people, or even more. With so many staff members, if the logistics are not guaranteed, problems may arise everywhere. Karen. Wayne turned his head to the new assistant director. After the meeting, you go to communicate with Industrial Light and Magic and tell them our production requirements. Ask them to give me a quote as soon as possible. Okay, Director Greenberg. Karen Feynman is also a veteran of Warner, and these tasks are not a problem for him. Next, everyone discussed the coordination issues between various types of work. These things cannot be avoided. There is a lot of turnover in the bottom level of Hollywood. It is basically impossible to start shooting smoothly right away. Wayne has experienced this situation twice and understands that everyone needs to run in tacit understanding. Okay, let's do this for today. Everyone go back and prepare. If there are any problems, communicate with me in time. John saw that the discussion was almost over, so he ended the preparatory meeting. Wayne was unfamiliar with most of the people in the room, but before they left, they all came to greet him and reported their names. Everyone knew that he couldn't remember everyone, but if he didn't introduce himself, it would be even more impossible for him to remember him. Nina, who had been sitting in the corner behind Wayne, started to get busy. She would ask for a business card for every crew member who had greeted her boss, so that Wayne could contact them at any time. Wayne, there is another important thing. John looked a little embarrassed, but he still said it. Someone has called Warner Brothers, hoping that the preview of the Joker Arthur will allow a certain actor to enter the second round directly. This made Wayne very dissatisfied. Even if his people participated in the audition, they had to start from the first round. At this moment, he wanted to know who had such a big face. What's the actor's name? Nicolas Cage. I have his resume here. John didn't like this kind of thing, but personal relationships were everywhere, and there would be people cutting in line in every crew. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Favors from Big Shots. Nicolas Cage. This name made Wayne feel dazed. He is the most familiar Hollywood star in my great country. When I watched his movies as a child, I felt that every one of them was very impressive. This must not be Wayne's personal feeling, but the feeling of that generation. But when we grew up, we learned that Nicolas Cage had a nickname called the King of Bad Movies. If Wayne remembered correctly, this Hollywood star has not yet touched commercial films, and is a standard literary and artistic person. Yes, you read it right. Nicolas Cage was really a standard literary and artistic person in the early 1990s. He was still the kind of literary and artistic person who disdained commercial films. His Hollywood acting career can be regarded as a bumpy legend. John, who has such a big face that can convince Warner Brothers. Wayne looked up and asked while flipping through his resume. You should know my work style. Basically, there is no favoritism. Even the heroine I want, I have to audition step by step. John also learned about Wayne's personality from the side. This is a genius director with a combination of contradictions. When he is not working, he is very good to the people around him and is easy to talk to. If you delay his work progress and cause trouble for his work, he will turn his face and ignore even the female stars he is close to. For example, Naomi Watts. She was scolded by this genius director more than once when filming Get Out, but what John learned was that Naomi Watts had always had an affair with him. If this big shot had not convinced Kevin Tsujihara this time, he would not be willing to help with this matter. John said to Wayne, who was looking down at his resume, "Have you seen the Godfather trilogy?" What? The director of the Godfather trilogy, the famous Francis Ford Coppola. Starting from Patton in 1970, through Godfather 1, 2, 3, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, which made $200 million in box office last year. No one is unwilling to give this great director a face. John was afraid that he couldn't figure it out, so he listed the achievements of this great director in detail to illustrate the status of such a big man in the Hollywood circle. What is his relationship with Nicolas Cage? Wayne put down the simple resume in his hand. There was almost no reference data except for a few art films he had shot. Is he the godfather of Nicolas Cage? Just like in the movie? Wayne tapped the resume on the table. Art films like Wild at Heart and Honeymoon in Vegas may have won awards, but he had never heard of them, and Nicolas Cage was not the protagonist, so it really didn't make any sense. If we call him by his normal name, his last name should be Coppola. John also felt that this guy was twisted, and he had to explain patiently. The Coppola family has a good influence in the circle. After Nicolas Cage debuted, he didn't want people to know that he was from this family, so artistic youths all have this kind of twisted personality. This makes sense. Nicolas Cage should be the nephew of this legendary Hollywood director, otherwise he wouldn't sell favors to help him build relationships. But don't say it. Wayne really thinks that an artistic guy like Cage might really be able to portray the role of the Joker. His acting skills are definitely not a problem. The biggest problem is that this guy was a jerk when he was young. Those who can roll around in the independent art world are really not jerk personalities. The circle they come into contact with every day is famous for chaos, promiscuity, drug abuse and drugs. Before seeing this resume, Wayne really ignored this potential stock with guaranteed acting skills. Arrange it for him. If his agent calls, tell him that Nicolas Cage can directly enter the second round of auditions. John showed a relaxed look on his face. He didn't want these trivial things to affect his cooperation with Wayne. A pair of producers and directors who fit each other well is a very rare combination. Thank you, Wayne. I will tell Kevin to remember you as a favor. You're welcome. If the role of the Joker is really his in the end, it will save me a lot of working time. In his heart, Wayne has always been curious and wants to see what performance this future weird Hollywood star can show now. After all, there are not many superstars who can go bankrupt, and there are even fewer superstars who may have to pay off their debts with bad movies and lose their value. That's it. I have to go back and prepare, and there are still shooting plans to do. Wayne thought that everything was said, so he stood up and handed the resume to Nina and prepared to go back. There is one more thing. It was just a personal matter just now. This is a business. John saw that he was about to leave and quickly stopped him. The business had not been done yet. Wayne, have you ever thought about when this film will be released? This is different from the low budget films we made before. This is one of Warner Brothers' top films next year, and the release date must be set in advance. Warner Brothers needs to make a publicity and distribution plan in advance, and also negotiate with the Theatre Alliance in advance to determine the screen. There are many things to do, and you must give me a time. It was obvious that this was different from the previous low-budget films, and he couldn't let his temper take his own way. All plans must be set in advance, and then pushed forward step by step according to the plan. Let me think about it. Wayne leaned back in his chair, took out a cigarette and lit it, and began to sort out the shooting time in his mind, calculating the time required for post-production, and leaving time for remedial measures in case of accidents. According to the current progress, the film can be started at the end of September at the latest. The filming of this film is relatively complicated, and all the shots should be completed in 3 to 4 months at the latest. He pointed to Nana's briefcase, asked her for a pen and paper, and began to write and draw on it. John, let's schedule this film at the beginning of the summer season, preferably in mid-May, to give me enough time for post-production. More than half an hour later, Wayne raised his head, crumpled up the scribbled paper, and stuffed it into Nina's briefcase along with the pen. The same schedule as Get Out. We actually have a better option. We can push it back to the middle of the summer season. John just needed to be sure of the completion time, and when he heard that it could be completed before May, he wanted to find a good schedule for the film. What a coincidence. That's right, Get Out was also released in mid-May. Wayne touched the stubble on his chin with his left hand, thought for a while and said, "No, John, you go and communicate with Kevin or the distribution department. We will take the mid-May schedule to see if there are any of our own films that can take it. Are you sure? You don't want to choose a better one?" "I'm sure. Since it's such a coincidence, then I will turn the mid-May schedule into the Greenberg time. I will release films at this time every year and make it a brand that movie fans like. Do you think there is any hope?" Wayne's ambition is very inflated. This is the idea he just thought of. As long as we can continue to succeed, nothing is impossible. John shrugged and stood up to end this conversation. He still has a lot of work to do, even more than Wayne, the director. That's it. Let's do the things in front of us first. This is a long-term goal. Wayne smiled and walked out with John. Francis Ford Coppola used his favor, but his nephew might not appreciate it. After hearing that this film was a commercial film, Nicolas Cage instinctively wanted to refuse this matter. It was not until the agent got a copy of the script of the project called Joker through his connections that Nicolas Cage's interest was aroused again. "Susan, is this really a commercial film? An investment of tens of millions of dollars?" This was the third time Nicolas Cage had read the script, and the third time he asked his agent the same question. This script simply made him exclaim, if this is also considered a commercial production, then what are the art films he shot before? Wayne Greenberg is very different from other commercial film directors. Nicola, his films are naturally heavy with artistry. I suggest you watch Get Out and Happy Death Day. Susan Millie saw that her client might change his mind and began to persuade him. She felt helpless about having such a client. He obviously had first-class connections in Hollywood, but he wanted to play art. How much can art be worth? In her eyes, such art films are almost useless except for winning some small awards. Chapter 110 Various Clowns. Please rent the videotapes of those 2 films for me, Susan. I want to see them. Nicolas Cage picked up the script of Joker and imagined what it would be like if he played the role of Arthur. As soon as he put himself into the role, he felt a tremor all over his body. The character of Arthur was designed so well that it was a representative of Nicolas Cage's artistry. Such a neurotic and crazy contradictory character. From when he was a kind child to the final Joker, the analysis of Arthur's character was simply impeccable. This screenwriter is a genius. Nicolas Cage closed his eyes and sighed softly. Wayne Greenberg. Susan suddenly took over his soliloquy. What? I said this screenwriter is also Wayne Greenberg. He always writes the scripts and directs the projects he produces. He even serves as the producer of the works. He is a genius. Susan saw that he was interested and continued. This is your chance, Nicola. As long as you can participate in this film, it will not only have the artistry you like, but also be recognized by the mainstream audience. The box office of this director's films is not low. Gently stroking the script in his hand, Nicolas Cage thought of the phone call he received a few days ago. His cousin Sofia Coppola told him that old Coppola had secured a very good project for him. Nicolas Cage himself was not interested in these. His standard for accepting a film was that he liked it, and it had to be artistic enough. He never looked down on rotten commercial blockbusters. However, the introduction of the agent and the weight of the script in his hand changed his mind. "I want this role, Susan." Nicolas Cage's thin face flashed with excitement. "Please contact Warner Brothers for me and ask them for the audition time. I will attend on time." "Okay, no problem." Agent Susan breathed a sigh of relief. "Nicholas, after you have commercial achievements, your status in the circle will become different. You can choose any movie you like at that time. Whenever she has the chance, she will definitely instill this in her clients. Actors without commercial achievements can only be called actors, and those with commercial achievements can be called stars. The difference is simply incalculable." "Okay, I understand." Nicolas Cage picked up the script and walked to the second floor. He really didn't want to continue listening to the agent's mumbling, especially mumbling the same paragraph every time, which was inconsistent with his ideal. "I'm going to prepare for the audition. If the director has vision, he will give me this role." He waved the script in his hand and walked to the study on the second floor. "Remember to rent a videotape for me." Susan saw him leave impatiently and prepared to leave his house to contact Warner Brothers as soon as possible. She believed that with the face of old Coppola, Nicolas Cage would have a great chance of getting the role as long as he didn't perform too badly. She never worried about her client's acting skills, but only worried about whether he would be kicked out of the audition because of his personality. She could only pray that Nicolas Cage would not play with his personality at the critical moment. As for his private life, Susan, as an agent, did not take it seriously. How many actors in Hollywood do not take drugs and smoke leaf tobacco? It is not just her client. In her eyes, literary and artistic people have always been associated with women and drugs, and the mainstream business circle is not much better. This is a circle of comparison. Not only Nicolas Cage is thinking about this role, but others have also received audition invitations. As the veteran clown in Warner Brothers movie Batman, Jack Nicholson was also full of surprises after receiving the audition invitation. In his opinion, he is the natural candidate for the role of the clown. In the Batman movie released in 1989, his clown was widely praised. His completely illogical performance style is indeed quite consistent with the character of the clown Arthur. Jack Nicholson's clown is chaotic and illogical. He has only one principle for doing things, that is, fun. He called his agent and asked him to reply to Warner's invitation. He would attend the audition for the male lead on time, no matter how the outside media reported it, and no matter how many people's attention was attracted by the audition for the role of the Joker. Wayne completely blocked out the surrounding information and immersed himself in his work. After stretching his waist and relieving the fatigue of sitting for a long time, Wayne looked at a storyboard manuscript that he had just finished drawing. He had an innate advantage in this thing, and the picture and camera arrangement were naturally installed in his mind. In fact, this matter could have been handed over to the assistant director who assisted in the shooting, and many directors have been doing this, but Wayne did not choose to be lazy. Since he had this advantage, he had to use it for the smooth shooting of the film. Not far from him sat the little assistant Nina. As long as he was working, Nina would never be too far away from him to prevent Wayne from suddenly thinking of something and needing her assistant to do it. The trailer of movie was playing on TV. Nina was afraid of affecting her boss, so she turned the volume very low, and Sylvester Stallone's roar could be vaguely heard. This is the kind of movie that ordinary movie fans like her like. Hot action movies and action stars are the best way to attract ordinary movie fans like her. Clerks of the Mountain? Nina heard her boss voice behind her and turned around to find Wayne also staring at the TV. Turn up the volume, Nina. Wayne only saw the end of the 15-second trailer, but he recognized the expressionless star at a glance. Well, there's a collision. That's right, the new movie of action star Sylvester Stallone, Clerks of the Mountain, is also scheduled to be released in mid-May 1993, and it is clearly written at the end of the trailer. This may be the only movie that this expressionless action star has not been scolded by fans. Wayne didn't expect that it would be such a coincidence that he would collide with the other party. Boss, they started promoting so early. Should we also notify Warner Brothers and start promoting on TV? After all, Nina is on her boss side. Thinking that it would collide with her own movie, she immediately abandoned her favorite star. No, they started the early promotion because the film was shot early. We just need to follow our own plan. With the budget for the publicity and promotion of Joker given by Warner Brothers, it would definitely not be enough if they started large-scale publicity from now on. Hollywood has long had its own set of publicity rules. Normal commercial films will release news from time to time during the filming and will not start large-scale bombardment until they are close to being released. Stallone's film is an exception because the filming was completed much earlier, so there will be commercials appearing on TV from time to time. Wayne stared at the TV in a daze. It seems that the main competitor next year will be Clerks of the Mountain, led by this action star. He doesn't remember the box office performance of this film. The only thing he remembers is that netizens call it the only movie of Stallone that has not been criticized. By the way, he slapped the sofa in front of him. Please call John for me and tell him that I have something to talk to him about. Although she has adapted to the way Wayne works, Nina still feels helpless about his startled style. She took out the notebook where she recorded the phone numbers and called John. Boss, Oklahoma. Wayne took the phone, confirmed that John could hear him, and directly told him what he had just thought. Do you think it is possible to ask Warner Brothers to add some publicity budget? I have an idea that can let more than 30 million people in the United States see our film in a short period of time. Wayne, publicity is not something we should consider. Our task is to make a good film. John on the other side was much calmer than him. He knew very well that he and Wayne were not qualified to interfere in Warner Brothers' publicity plan. It was best not to even make suggestions. Warner Brothers is an old distribution company with the world's top film distribution capabilities. If you rashly intervene in this matter, it will only cause dissatisfaction in the distribution department. The production department and the distribution department, as the two most important departments of this film giant, have never had a harmonious relationship. Listen, John, you can try to communicate with the company and put our trailer in the halftime advertisement of the Super Bowl. Wayne explained to him patiently. Super Bowl. John also thought of the significance of doing this. This is the highest rated program in North America, with no less than 30 million viewers every year. Chapter 111, The Skinny Performing Genius. There was a sudden silence on the other end of the conversation. Wayne knew that the producer was seriously considering the feasibility of the matter, so he patiently waited for the other party's reply. Wayne, I will try to communicate with the publicity department of Warner Brothers, but the final decision on this matter will probably be given to Kevin. You wait for my news. No problem. Let me know when there is a result. If the trailer can really be used in the Super Bowl halftime advertising show, I will change the shooting plan. After hanging up the phone, he sat back at his desk, looking at the storyboard in front of him, thinking about the publicity budget that Warner Brothers had set for the film. The production budget of the Joker project is $60 million, and the publicity and promotion will also invest $15 to $20 million depending on the effect of the film. This number is already very high, representing the production company's trust in him as a director. If you ask the production company to increase the publicity and promotion budget at the last minute, no one knows whether this will succeed, and Warner Brothers' book funds do not seem to be abundant. The current publicity and promotion costs are not as high as they were after the new century. As the most commercialized film and television industry in the world, it was not until after the new century that Hollywood's investment in film publicity and promotion began to enter a pathological state that far exceeded the production costs. However, since the 1990s, the publicity budget of mainstream commercial blockbusters has accounted for 30% of the production costs, and as time changes, the investment in this part will also increase. Until after 2000, the publicity expenses of some super large productions will exceed hundreds of millions of dollars. Now all Hollywood distribution companies know the importance of publicity and promotion, but it is far from being as utilitarian as it was after the century. The screening cycle of films in this era is relatively long, so there will not be a situation where more than 2/3 of fans are driven into the theater in the first week of release. However, anyone with a normal brain knows that if a film wants to sell well, large-scale publicity and marketing is a necessary means. So if there is an opportunity to let more than 10 million people in North America see their promotional films, he thinks Warner Brothers will definitely be tempted. No film has used this method yet. Compared with those perfume and luxury goods advertisements, it is too extravagant and wasteful to promote a movie in the Super Bowl halftime advertising show. That is the prime time that costs at least $100,000 per second. This is an opportunity for Wayne's film. The first person to try it out will always get more than the next one. As long as it is profitable, there is an opportunity for Warner Brothers to add more publicity and promotion funds. Time passed slowly in the busy preparations, and Zack Snyder and producer John also received good news. They have communicated with the New York City government and signed a contract. Industrial Light and Magic also gave a precise quotation. Because there are not too many shots that require CGI and props, the quotation they gave is completely acceptable to Wayne, so he signed a contract with the other party. The staff of Industrial Light and Magic have already started making props. There is still plenty of time to complete the production during the filming of the film. The main actors of the film have already had a round of auditions. Just when Wayne was about to start the second round of auditions, Warner Brothers finally received good news. They will increase the film's publicity budget as appropriate and buy 30 seconds of the Super Bowl halftime advertisement next year for the promotion of the film. It was already September, and he was in charge of a relatively unfamiliar filming team. Wayne felt a tight schedule. If he wanted to broadcast the commercial at the Super Bowl, he had to finish shooting all the scenes before January. During the relatively tight filming period, no major accidents could occur. The filming and production of a film was a very tedious job. If there was any accident, no one knew how long it would take. Why is he here? In a studio at Warner Studios, the second round of auditions for the main roles was about to begin. The first person to enter the audition office was not the director and producer, but Jonathan Keller, the boss of DC Comics. Schwartz, who was adjusting the camera, was stunned by his arrival because he had never invited him. Seeing him walk to the corner and sit down, Schwartz shook his head and ignored him. Not long after, the producer and director walked in together. They were also surprised to see Jonathan Keller sitting in the corner. They nodded silently and greeted him, and then sat behind the table together. Schwartz, let's get started. We are very short on time. If possible, choose the right actor as soon as possible and cancel the third round of auditions. John said to the casting director behind the camera. No problem. Schwartz glanced at his watch, walked to the door and opened it. The first person to come in was Nicolas Cage. His thin face was painted with makeup, and his complexion looked unhealthy and pale. Wayne looked at the face of this future superstar and knew that he had made a lot of preparations in advance. He was trying to get closer to the role of the clown. Schwartz glanced at the three people behind the table. Seeing that they had no intention of speaking, he took the initiative to host the audition. Hello, Mr. Cage. Hello. Nicolas Cage didn't say much. The specially made look made him very close to the image of the clown. This is a one-man show, Mr. Cage. Wayne, who was sitting behind the table, spoke directly without waiting for Schwartz to ask questions according to the procedure. What do you think is the core of the Joker? Nicolas Cage looked at him, thought for a while and said, this is not a stereotyped villain. His uncontrollable laughter and extremely sad heart can make people tremble and make people feel the extreme repression of pain, which will naturally transform into a destructive force. Probably everyone will have such a crazy possibility in such an extreme environment. The Joker made me find resonance in him. After saying that, he looked at the director's expressionless face, wanting to know whether the other party was satisfied with his understanding. Obviously, he was disappointed that Wayne did not reveal the praise he hoped for. It seems that you have done a lot of preparation. Wayne picked up a page of the script on the table and handed it to him. When he looked at the scene on it, he continued, this is a scene where Arthur changes clothes. He is in the company's dressing room. I need you to perform this part. This is a scene that was specially selected. It is very difficult to perform because you can't use facial expressions. The audience is left with only half of the back, and you have to perform Arthur's loneliness. Nicolas Cage looked at the script in his hand and breathed a sigh of relief. He had practiced this part at home. He first took off his shirt, then the t-shirt underneath, revealing a body that made the people in the room gasp. He slowly sat down on the ground with his back to everyone, crossing his arms behind his back. His skinny body looked even more lonely and desolate under his deliberate twisting, and without special music, everyone in the room could feel the emotional transmission. Not long after, Nicolas Cage slowly retracted his arms, began to untie his shoelaces with force, and then clumsily put them back one by one. Okay, let's stop here. After hearing the shout, Nicolas Cage sat in silence for a while, and then slowly pulled out of the state of clown Arthur, and turned back to himself. Everyone could feel his change. This was a madman who dared to reduce himself to a skinny body for an uncertain audition. How did you think of losing weight? Wayne finally revealed appreciation in his eyes, looking at him as if he was looking at a work of art. His performance is silent but powerful, the kind of power that can move people and cause emotional resonance, and the body after deliberately losing weight has aggravated the transmission of this emotional resonance. I just analyzed Arthur's state by myself, imagined what his physical and mental condition would be like in this depressing and desperate living environment, and then made myself fit Arthur, and finally tried to become Arthur. His answer won the favor of everyone. Even Wayne sighed in his heart that there are still benefits to being a literary youth. They are more stubborn and willing to try anything as long as it helps the performance. I have to say that your performance is very good. I can clearly feel the emotions conveyed from the performance, and all the preparations you have made for this role have also made the performance more perfect. Thank you, Director Greenberg. Nicolas Cage finally revealed his own personality. He proudly raised his chin slightly, as if these praises were deserved and should only belong to him. This is a taciturn and extremely proud young man. He is full of confidence in his acting talent. This is not blind confidence. He is really capable of interpreting this role well. Wayne looked at him with more satisfaction. He didn't care what Nicolas Cage's personality was like. He didn't expect that the first audition would give him such a big surprise. Your performance is wonderful. Let's stop here. Within 3 days, we will inform your agent of the audition results. Okay, thank you. Nicolas Cage bent down slightly, picked up the clothes on the ground, and put them on, turned around, opened the door and walked out. After he went out, John looked at his resume and sighed. This is a genius. No, maybe a madman. Very good. Even for the subsequent auditions, I don't think there is any need to go on. John, he can fully play this role. This sentence also resonated with several people in the room. Everyone nodded unconsciously. Whether Nicolas Cage was a natural acting genius, or because he had made sufficient preparations in advance, his condition was indeed competent for this role. Okay, let's continue. The young man came in again. Obviously, he also came for the role of Arthur the Joker. Hello. Please introduce yourself. Schwartz pointed to the 3 people behind the table and said to the young man, "My name is Brandon Lee. Chapter 112 Your father is Bruce Lee." Listening to the actor's self-introduction, Wayne always felt that something was wrong. This feeling was very strange. I was born in California. I'm a Chinese American. My father is Chinese and my mother is American. I just participated in the filming of the movie Dragon Domination. When they heard him say that he was Chinese and Chinese, several people in the room frowned. This was not racial discrimination, but some rules of Hollywood movies. Okay, Mr. Lee. Although it was a bit impolite, John still waved his hand to interrupt his self-introduction. You said you are a Chinese American? Yes, I know you can't tell from the appearance. He pointed to his face and continued, my father gave me a Chinese name, called Li Guoheo. Okay, I know it's hard to read, so my friends call me Lee. Wayne's head buzzed, and he thought it was so weird. Chinese American, completely American looking, and the last name was Lee. Bruce Lee is your father? This question came out involuntarily. Wayne was very curious about why the son of this legendary kung fu star came to his crew for an interview. Chinese people in North America live at the bottom of society, even worse than black people. Of course, the bottom refers to social status. Chinese people are introverted, unlike other races. At least African people know how to cry, make a scene, and hang themselves. They will do group activities for free. But Bruce Lee is different. Bruce Lee is one of the few movie stars recognized by the North American public. Almost everyone knows his kung fu. As the son of Bruce Lee, he has a natural American look. He should not lack opportunities to participate in movies. Hearing Wayne mention this name, John and Schwartz also looked at this young man curiously. Even the head of DC, who had been shrinking in the corner and was taciturn, showed a gossipy look. Yes, he is my father. Brandon Lee shrugged. When he mentioned his superstar father, his expression was a little unnatural. Many people are very curious about his father Bruce Lee and want to dig out some so-called inside stories from him. As a movie star, philosopher, and martial arts master who led the global kung fu craze, coupled with some rumors of his sudden death, Bruce Lee has always been a hot topic in North America. He is a great action star. John looked at the young man, and his attitude was completely different from what he had just said. This is the influence of Bruce Lee. But you don't look like a Chinese. How did you know about the Joker project? My agent signed me up for the audition. He thinks I fit the image of the Joker better. When he mentioned the role he was going to audition for, he suddenly changed his facial expression, laughing loudly, but looking very sad. Good performance. Wayne interrupted his performance, picked up another page of the script on the table, and handed it over. Give you 5 minutes to prepare, and then perform this scene. Different from the scene with Nicolas Cage just now, this is the scene where Arthur couldn't control himself and suddenly laughed on the subway and then was beaten by several people. The scene seems simple, but it reveals the transition from Arthur to the Joker. If it is connected to the following scene, it is his first murder and then his transformation. You can start anytime if you're ready. Wayne tilted his head and looked at the son of the kung fu superstar through the camera in front of Schwartz. After closing his eyes and thinking for a while, he moved a chair from the side, sat on it, and suddenly opened his eyes. Aha. You can go back now. We will inform your agent of the audition result within 3 days. Thank you. From Wayne's regret for lies, Brandon Lee knew that he had basically no hope, and he himself knew the reason clearly. What a pity. After he went out, Jonathan Keller, the head of DC, also said with regret, "We can't take risks, Mr. Keller." Wayne, who always kept a clear mind, turned around and explained to Jonathan in a low voice, "This is a big production with an investment of $60 million US. Although he doesn't look like a Chinese, no one can say whether the North American audience will choose him." In fact, no one felt more pity than Wayne. Brandon Lee met his requirements very well in terms of appearance and performance. Even his figure was very tall and thin, but as he said, they couldn't take risks. The mass movie fans in North America are the most serious movie audiences in the world. Not to mention a Chinese actor, they even disdain their cousin, a British actor. All Hollywood production companies know that to shoot and produce a hit mainstream commercial film, the absolute protagonist must be an American, or even a white person. Those alternative films are dead, which is determined by the market. North American movie fans are not only exclusive to actors. Until 2021, before Wayne came here, no foreign film had achieved particularly good results in the North American theater market, and even the box office of over 100 million was rare. But he had some other ideas, and wrote down the name of Brandon Lee on the paper at hand. Schwartz, call the next one. John flipped through the resume in his hand and saw that there were still a lot of young actors on it, all of whom came to audition for this role. Since they can pass the first round of auditions, it means that these people have more or less desirable features, and no one dares to guarantee whether they will be more suitable than Nicolas Cage. But the obvious thing is that, even if the performance level is close to or even slightly better than Nicolas Cage, they can't compete with him for this role. This is a role of human feelings. One by one, they came in, introduced themselves and performed, and then left. The boring audition made them very tired, especially since there was no performance that would impress. Hello, Director Greenberg. The actor who came in this time was a familiar face, and Wayne recognized him at a glance. Hello, Mr. Nicholson. No need to introduce yourself. Everyone here knows you. Holding Jack Nicholson's resume, Wayne rubbed his brow. This is a veteran actor who has also played the role of the Joker. Thank you. Then I will start the performance directly, Nicholson said with a smile, his tone full of confidence. Wayne nodded and handed him a scene introduction in the script. You can start anytime, when you are ready. This is a short scene with lines. Arthur faces his father, old Wayne, and accuses him of not being able to give him a little warmth. After receiving the script, Jack Nicholson read it silently for a while, and started the performance directly. Why do you say that? I don't need your lies. I know it's weird. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Why are you so rude? I don't know why you are like this. I don't want anything, maybe just a little warmth, or a hug, Dad. Since the performance began, the three people behind the table shook their heads at the same time. There was nothing wrong with his performance, but his state was not right. Jack Nicholson used the same state as the Joker in the 1989 Batman movie. He brought his own understanding to every line, which seemed funny and illogical. However, several people did not interrupt his performance until he finished all the lines, and then they applauded politely. Mr. Nicholson, thank you for coming to the audition. We will notify your agent of the audition results within 3 days. Thank you. After he went out, John looked at Wayne. He is not good. It doesn't match our setting at all. Jack Nicholson is still immersed in the Joker role in the past. Anyone else? Wayne nodded, agreeing very much with the producer's opinion. That's all for now, the audition director said. Wayne stood up, opened his arms, and stretched out his body. He had been sitting on the chair for a long time, and felt like he was rusted, and sore all over. Arrange auditions for other roles. Let's speed up. Chapter 113 Micro needs a stand-in. After a simple lunch, all kinds of actors stood outside the small audition meeting room. Unlike the morning meeting, there were almost all kinds of actors this time. Halle Berry was waiting alone at the door of the meeting room. She would be the first to go in. She knew that the heroine of this film was obviously a tool, not even a vase, but this was her best chance. As long as Wayne still hoped to succeed as before, she would also become famous with the film. This is a one-man show, and the protagonist is just the clown Arthur, and most of the shots in the film are also chasing him. Ding, ding, ding. Footsteps came, and all the actors in the corridor were looking at the three people coming. They knew that whether they could pass the audition and join this project was in the hands of these three people. Schwartz opened the door of the meeting room and waved his hand to Halle Berry. Come in, Ms. Berry, thank you. As the casting director of this project, he knew the relationship between this woman and the director. In the meeting room, Wayne was discussing Nicolas Cage with John. After work this afternoon, John was asked to contact his agent to negotiate the salary and treatment with the other party as soon as possible. After watching all kinds of clowns for the whole morning, only Nicolas Cage's performance was the most outstanding. The son of the Chinese action star was actually not bad, but unfortunately he was not in the male lead's plan. This image is good, John muttered softly. Standing in front of the three people, Halle Berry looked at them confidently. Her deliberately done hair and made up face made her look like an ordinary black girl. A common pair of brown overalls, paired with a simple long-sleeved t-shirt. From the clothes and image, the three people felt that the appearance would not be an obstacle for Halle Berry to play the leading role. After a simple performance, Halle Berry walked out of the meeting room. Schwartz, John, what do you think? The casting director nodded to the producer John and said, she is fine, and her acting skills can handle this role. Let's go with Halle Berry. I'll call her agent to inform her. John didn't have any objections. To put it bluntly, this is a small role. The only important role in the whole film is Arthur. The reason why the two did this was actually for Wayne's sake. So, in Hollywood, the role of personal connections is sometimes really very important. The audition progress in the afternoon was significantly accelerated. The uncertain candidates were put aside for the time being. Each actor would not stay in the conference room for more than 10 minutes. It was not until the street lights were turned on in the studio that Wayne and the other two walked out of the studio together. Who should we use for that talk show host? John looked up and discussed the actor issue with Wayne as he walked. Basically, all the roles that could be confirmed today had been confirmed, and he was about to discuss the contract with the agent. The only exception was the talk show host who was shot and killed by Arthur Liv at the end of the film. There is still no suitable candidate. This role has neither too many nor too few scenes, but it also has some acting requirements. Wayne recalled the old actors in Hollywood who had an impression of him and said, "Contact Robert DeLone's agent tomorrow. If he has time, talk to him directly about the contract. No problem." And, John. Wayne suddenly thought of the problems encountered in the filming of the previous film. All actors' contracts must have a drug prohibition clause. It must be clearly marked in the contract. If I find out that they are high during work, I will replace them. When the last film was filmed, Will Smith was in very good condition. However, he went downhill after attending a rap star party. Although Will Smith apologized to him sincerely in the end, the filming was delayed. Wayne never wanted to experience the main character delaying the filming progress because of taking those things again. I will mark it in the contract. If they can't help taking those things, the crew has the right to replace them. This is just a deterrent, John. We can't keep an eye on them every day. We can only use contracts to restrict them. To make a good film, every member of the crew is crucial. The director is one aspect, and the actors are another. No matter which aspect has problems, it is possible to extend the filming time of the film indefinitely. After leaving the studio, Wayne got in the car and looked at his assistant. "Have you talked to him?" "Yeah." Nina nodded. "I told him about your proposal, and he said he would go back and consider it, but judging from what the actor said, he still wants to act in a movie." Still wants to act in a movie? During the lunch break, Wayne asked his assistant to find Brandon Lee, hoping that he could participate in this film. Although Brandon Lee is very thin, he has been practicing kung fu since he was a child and is very agile. The position that the crew can offer him is to join the behind-the-scenes working group, to do some action guidance work and to be the stand-in for the male lead Arthur. For such an arrangement, it is the best solution that Wayne has racked his brains to come up with. Otherwise, the son of the Chinese action superstar will join another crew in a while and follow his father's old path. The film The Crow is very famous, but the content is a joke. It's not because the director or the actor performed poorly, but because Brandon Lee was shot and killed after not shooting many shots. Most of the shots of the actress were shot by a stand-in and finally cut into Brandon Lee's shots, synthesizing such a film that exploits the dead. This is a common tactic of Hollywood capital. He is neither the first dead person to be consumed nor the most famous. Only dead actors are qualified to be deified. Ask him a meeting in my name tomorrow and ask him to come directly to the Warner building in Burbank. I want to talk to him. Finally, if he still can't change his mind, Wayne will not bother with it. Okay, boss. The next morning, the Rolls-Royce Silver Spur stopped at the bottom of the Warner building. As soon as Wayne got out of the car, he saw Brandon Lee waiting at the door. If there is anyone in Hollywood who is similar to him, it is probably Keanu Reeves. They also have Chinese ancestry and a melancholy face. "Mr. Greenberg, let's talk inside." After they sat down in the lounge area on the first floor, Wayne said directly, "My assistant should have made it clear yesterday that my crew needs an action director, and the male lead also needs a stunt double. You can do this job, Mr. Greenberg." "I'm considering it." Brandon Lee was actually very unsure of what the other party meant. Hollywood has no shortage of action directors, and this is not an action movie. As for the stunt double, there is some possibility. In fact, this is not in line with my original intention. I have always wanted to be an actor and star in my own movie. That's difficult, unless you are willing to continue to exploit your father. Wayne looked at him seriously and stretched out his hand to make a kung fu gesture. "You should understand the purpose of those film companies looking for you. They just want to exploit your father Bruce Lee, and they don't care whether you are the protagonist or not. In fact, this is the case. Brandon Lee himself is very clear about the problem he is facing. He is confident that he can act well in movies, but he has never gotten two good opportunities. When he debuted in Kung Fu Circle, he played Bruce Lee's double. No one can say whether there are other factors in the subsequent films. Lee, think about it carefully." Wayne stood up and prepared to go upstairs. He had done everything he could, and it could be regarded as making up for the regret in his heart. As for whether it was effective or not, it was not something he, a film director, could decide. Okay, I'll take it. Before he walked far, he heard the answer. Wayne turned around and said, "Let your agent contact John. After signing the contract, you will immediately join the group and start training. We will go to New York to start filming soon." After that, he waved to him and walked into the elevator with Nina. "Boss, do you admire him?" Nina looked curious. Wayne shrugged. "He is a good actor, but unfortunately he is Chinese. But in a year or two, there should be better opportunities." Wayne added in his heart, "That depends on whether there is anyone willing to support him. Since Keanu Reeves can become famous, Brandon Lee will not have too many problems, mainly because it is his first time. No one dares to take the risk of using him in a commercial film with a huge investment. No one is sure whether the general public will hate the movie he starred in because of racial issues, and those small productions that invite him for various reasons will not have much influence. As long as he can prove himself like Keanu Reeves, even if only once, the road ahead will be much easier." Chapter 114, Visiting the set. After this was done, Wayne was relieved and devoted all his energy to the preparations. As time went by, all the preparations were going smoothly. The actors also joined the crew one after another after signing the contract and began to prepare for their roles. Although Nicolas Cage has some fame, it is in the independent art film circle and has no added effect on mainstream business. His agent and John did not argue too much about the salary and treatment. The price of $1.5 million is not low for him, and there is no messy special treatment, just the right to have the normal male lead of the crew. At John's request, including the actors and the main staff of the crew, all signed an agreement with special terms. The contract clearly stipulates that, if the work is affected by taking drugs, smoking leaf tobacco or psychotropic drugs, the crew has the right to fire any employee and will not pay any remuneration. If the crew suffers losses due to these, Warner Brothers has the right to hold the individual responsible. Wayne's plan is to start filming in October, finish all the shots around Christmas, start post-production around 1993, and wait until the summer season begins in mid-May to be released. Wayne doesn't have to worry about publicity. Warner Brothers has a series of publicity plans. As the top project at the beginning of next year's summer season, this film will also be on the Super Bowl halftime advertising show. After Nicolas Cage joined the crew, he began to train for fitness. His skinny figure was completely starved. The crew found a special fitness coach and nutrition expert to slowly adjust his body for him. It is necessary to maintain the current figure without suffering from malnutrition and delaying the filming of the movie. There are many balloon actors in Hollywood, such as Christian Bale, who is a typical balloon man. He can gain or lose weight in a very short time according to the requirements of the role in the film. However, Wayne does not approve of this method from the bottom of his heart. A normal person who gains and loses weight in a very short time will still cause great harm to the body, no matter how the nutritionist adjusts it. But for actors, this is a way for them to prove their acting skills. As a behind-the-scenes staff member of the film, Brandon Lee also joined the stunt team. He also has a special identity, that is, Nicolas Cage's double, and he is training with him. Nicolas, the role of Arthur is very demanding for actors. This is a pure one-man show, so I will have very high requirements for you. In some of his free time, Wayne would also go around the actors' training hall to observe the training of the main actors, especially Nicolas Cage. You must have morbid loneliness all over your body, but you must practice keeping a warm smile on your face. Nicolas Cage, who was sitting alone in the corner, looked up and glanced at him. "I know how to do it." After saying that, he lowered his head again and slowly practiced some clips about Arthur in the film. Looking at this future superstar who seemed to be fascinated, Wayne didn't care about his attitude. Just like himself, geniuses always have some special quirks and their own pride. In any case, as long as he does his job well, Wayne will not bother him. Director Greenberg. Wayne nodded to Brandon Lee when he heard his greeting. Compared to Nicolas Cage, his stunt double was much easier to get along with. Brandon Lee might have Oriental blood, and he was modest, cautious, and hard-working. In order to get close to Nicolas Cage's figure, he lost another 10 pounds of weight on his already weak body, and usually paid attention to imitating his walking and some small habits in life. After a simple turnaround, after saying hello to several actors who were training, Wayne left the actor training hall. All the preparations in Los Angeles went smoothly, and all the preparations were proceeding in an orderly manner. Good news also came from Industrial Light and Magic. Some of the prop models he needed had been completed and could be sent to the crew at any time. 2 days before preparing to rush to New York for filming, Wayne temporarily handed over the work on hand to John and Zack Snyder and only brought Sergi to the outskirts of Los Angeles. The crew of The Mask was shooting outdoor scenes here, and he came this time to visit the crew as promised. In fact, it was also the first time that Wayne visited the actors on set. He just wanted to date Cameron Diaz again before going to New York and experience the warmth of the ancients. He was very busy during this period. This woman called him several times, but was directly rejected by his assistant Nina. The crew of The Mask was not large. They temporarily set up a studio in several old houses. After Wayne explained his purpose to the security personnel, he was led into the studio of the crew. Because it is being filmed now, Director Greenberg, don't make any noise after entering. I will help you call Miss Diaz. The security guard seemed to be familiar with the actors and the crew. Okay, I think they are about to rest, so there is no need to call her. Wayne looked at the time. It was almost noon. Normally, the crew's filming work would stop and would not start again until after lunch. After entering the studio, Wayne did not go in, but just observed in the corner of the door. Jim Carrey had makeup on his face and was facing 3 men in black suits holding guns. Wayne had never been exposed to this kind of makeup. His face was covered with green paint. He observed Jim Carrey's performance. The actors' facial expressions were very rich, changing into different forms at any time, which was simply amazing. Cut. This one is past. Take a break. Wayne didn't come out from the corner of the door until he saw the crew finishing work and taking a break. He came to Cameron Diaz, who was sitting on the prop box. She didn't look very good. Even with a layer of makeup on her sweet face, it was still obvious that she was very tired. Honey, you don't look very well. Are you sick? Seeing that she had been staring at the magazine with her head down, Wayne bent down and whispered in her ear, "Oh my. How did you have time to come to visit the set?" Cameron Diaz was full of surprise when she saw him, and she stood up and gave him a big hug with a smile. "I'm going to New York to start filming in 2 days." Looking at this beautiful woman who was so close, Wayne said after letting her go, "I came to see you before I leave. I'll probably be there for a few months this time." Cameron Diaz licked her lips lightly, leaned forward, blew a breath in his ear, and whispered, "Are you hinting at something, Daddy? Is it that obvious? Of course, you're like a robot with endless hormones." Many crew members were looking at the two people who were sticking together. In fact, since Wayne walked into the studio, many people have noticed him, but few people recognized him. After all, being a director is still a behind-the-scenes job. Even if you have some fame, it is only spread among a specific group of people. "Cameron, is this your boyfriend? I remember you said you were single." When the two were chatting about where to go for lunch, a tall woman came over and interrupted their conversation. She had burgundy hair and a typical American girl's tough appearance. She seemed curious when she spoke, but her voice was particularly loud, attracting the attention of many people. "Amy, you don't need to care about my affairs." The smile on Cameron Diaz's face melted instantly after seeing her. "Why are you so curious about whether I have a boyfriend? If you want a man, you can find one yourself." "Hey, don't get me wrong, I'm just afraid that you will be deceived. After all, this is Hollywood, and it is very dangerous for an actress like you who is filming for the first time." "Amy, enough, I don't want to see you." Wayne found that the two women obviously had a very big conflict. It should not be the first time they quarreled like this. The red-haired girl turned her eyes and looked at Wayne on the side, revealing a sweet smile. "Hi, handsome, I'm Amy Yasbeck. Nice to meet you. Can you tell me your name?" "Bix." Cameron Diaz was obviously no match for this woman in quarreling. Wayne didn't want to waste time on meaningless farce. The purpose of his coming here was not for this, so he grabbed her arm. Looking at the red-haired girl, he said, "Hello, I'm Wayne Greenberg. Sorry, we have something else to do. Can you give us some private space?" Chapter 115. You are not her boyfriend? The fuss here attracted more people's attention, and Wayne could even hear people whispering. Amy Yasbeck obviously didn't care about the staff's onlookers and took 2 steps forward. "You're not her boyfriend?" Wayne shook his head instinctively, and after seeing Cameron Diaz's angry face, he sighed and nodded. He didn't want to continue to entangle here. Every actress in the crew was like this, and few could coexist peacefully. So he took Cameron Diaz's hand and prepared to leave the studio first, and then discuss where to have lunch after going out. "Hey, boy, don't be fooled by Cameron Diaz's appearance. She is not as pure as she seems." Seeing that the 2 of them were about to leave, Amy Yasbeck took 2 steps forward and continued to provoke the relationship between the 2 of them. Wayne suddenly realized that this red-haired girl regarded himself as Cameron Diaz's pursuer. He didn't know what had happened between the 2 women that made this woman want to ruin Cameron Diaz's good thing. Wayne was actually happy to hear this. He stopped his steps and was about to leave. He looked at Amy Yasbeck with some doubts. "Cameron, she lied to me. Yes, this is her first job in Hollywood, but look at her clothes and handbags. I can tell you that these things are not cheap. Guess what she used to get these?" Hearing this, Cameron Diaz glanced at Wayne and smiled. She didn't say anything and hid behind Wayne to start watching the show. Yes, her clothes and this bag should not be cheap. Wayne looked at the woman in front of him seriously, judging what she just said. "So, handsome guy, guess what an actress who just arrived in Hollywood used to get these things?" "What? Of course it's her body. What else does she have besides her body? Do you still think the woman behind you is pure and lovely?" "You guessed right. I bought all these things for her." Wayne continued to look at the woman seriously. "Yes, so she is. What did you say?" Amy Yasbeck was stunned. "You guessed right. I bought all these for her." Wayne laughed. Occasionally, he would be silly and feel particularly happy. "Don't you read gossip news? I'm his sugar daddy. Is there anything else you want to tell me, Ms. Yasbeck?" Some people who were close to him smiled and obviously heard the whole conversation. Shaking his head, Wayne took Cameron Diaz, who also had a sweet smile on her face, and walked out of the studio, muttering, "Damn it, Cameron, don't I look like someone who can afford Channel?" Hearing his words, some people even laughed out loud. "Wait, Wayne, I don't have much to do in the afternoon. Accompany me to ask the producer for leave. I want to eat your Chinese food." Cameron Diaz understood very well that the producer would give Wayne face if she was dragged along. It was understandable that these low-level staff in the studio didn't know Wayne. His starting point was too high. He stepped into the upper structure of Hollywood in 2 steps. But the producer couldn't fail to recognize this Hollywood director. This was also an opportunity to increase his weight in the crew, which would make his life easier in the future. "Okay, where is he?" "In the office over there, let's go." Seeing that he didn't object, Cameron Diaz pulled him to the producer's office. Unlike Wayne's own crew, this was a normal Hollywood crew structure, with the producer as the most powerful person and the director just an employee who shot the footage. With this producer-centered production method, the director basically had no chance to participate in post-production, and he might not even have the right to make suggestions. Knock, knock. "Come in." Cameron Diaz knocked on the door and heard the answer from inside, then took Wayne into the office. "Mr. Woodsman, a friend came to visit me. I only have a few scenes in the afternoon, so I want to take half a day off to go out with him." Seeing that the producer hadn't looked up and was concentrating on the pile of reports on the table, Cameron Diaz directly stated his request. Martin Woodsman looked up when he heard the girl's voice. "Ms. Diaz, I'll tell the director to move your scene to tomorrow. Is there anything else? You see, I'm very busy now." She was a little surprised that things went so smoothly. "Hello, Mr. Woodsman, I'm Wayne Greenberg, nice to meet you." Wayne took the initiative to step forward and extended his hand. Martin Woodsman also stood up, shook hands and said politely, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Greenberg." After saying that, he seemed to recognize Wayne, took a closer look at his face, and then smiled and greeted. "Director Greenberg, I like your work very much. It is simply a perfect combination of art and business." "Thank you. Then you go ahead and hope to have a chance to work together in the future." He pointed to the reports on the other's desk, then smiled and prepared to leave. Okay, I hope to have a chance to work together. After leaving the studio door, Wayne and she did not stay and got in the car directly to go home. Cameron Diaz was smiling all the way. Even if she looked tired, she couldn't hide her good mood. You don't know, Wayne. She leaned on the sofa and explained to him. I'm a novice actress, but I got the lead role by sheer luck, which made many people in the crew very unhappy with me. My life has been a mess during this period. The Hollywood film crew is not as beautiful as I imagined. Wayne thought about it and comforted her. Every crew has conflicts, even my crew is no exception, so you have to learn to adapt and don't focus on these things, otherwise you will only have no progress. Is it like this in all crews? Cameron Diaz asked curiously. Almost all the same. Where there are people, there must be fighting. Everyone wants to have more say, right? Don't mention these unhappy things. You said you want to eat Chinese food. Wayne was not willing to talk about these, waiting for this woman to experience 2 shoots. She will understand everything. What others say is never as profound as what she has experienced. Chinese food, of course. I remember eating it at your place last time. After saying that, she glanced at the front of the car, and after finding that the isolation board had been lowered, she gently climbed in front of Wayne. We can have an appetizer first. What do you think? Of course, you can taste it anytime you like. Seeing a pair of deft hands quickly climb up his belt, Wayne closed his eyes and leaned back on the large sofa. The ride comfort of the Rolls-Royce is very good, and the body vibration is almost imperceptible. After surgery drove the car into the Greenberg Manor. He opened the door and got out of the car and walked into the main building. As a security guard and driver who has been with Wayne for so long, he knows his boss too well. This lunch was not officially eaten until an hour after lunchtime. While eating the dumplings on the plate, Wayne looked at this woman who always brought him surprises. From the afternoon to the early morning of this day, the two of them had their footprints all over the 3rd floor, and Wayne once again tasted the waste equipped with an engine as he wished, and the ancient and warm heart. In early October, in a suite at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Manhattan, Wayne and a group of core team members were having a meeting. They arrived in New York yesterday, when it was dark. Today, the crew took a day off, and prepared to officially start filming tomorrow. Zach, is the city government sure there's no problem? We are going to close the road for the first day of filming tomorrow, and they need to send out police to coordinate. This is what Wayne is most worried about. If the filming doesn't go smoothly, it will waste precious time to close the road. No problem, I've communicated everything. Zach nodded. As long as we start on time, the police will help maintain order. The metropolis of New York, as the main location for Hollywood film production, has no idea how many crews come here every month to shoot. The New York City government is also quite cooperative. As long as it doesn't involve disrupting the normal order of society, they will generally give the green light. When John and Zack Snyder came to inspect the location before, they had already signed an agreement with the other party. The New York City government is also very reputable in this regard. John, have all the crew members checked into the hotel? Be sure to arrange the logistics. This is not Warner Studios. If any trouble arises, it will immediately attract the attention of the media. Everything has been arranged. The actors and crew members who came here together, not counting various temporary workers, total nearly 150 people. The huge crew is also testing the organizational ability of John, the producer. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Losing the Baron at the Start, 1993, the third morning after the Joker crew arrived in New York. They officially started filming on a street in Brooklyn. The police had helped to close the streets on both sides. This was not a downtown area, so there were not too many pedestrians watching. The crew did not hold any media events, and Wayne was ready to start filming directly. The mottled streets had been quiet since the crew members were ready, with only the lights on the police cars at both ends flashing desperately. All the staff members deliberately kept a distance from the director, and even Wayne's assistant Nina deliberately distanced herself from her boss. No one wanted to offend him at this time. Sitting in the director's chair behind the monitor, Wayne had a look of keep away from strangers. He raised his arm and looked at his watch impatiently again. It was already past 10 o'clock, but the male lead of the crew had not arrived yet. Since the road was closed at 8 o'clock, the crew, with the assistance of Zack Snyder, had made preparations for filming. But after everything was ready, everyone found that the male lead Nicolas Cage could not be found. Wayne thought something had happened to him and delayed him. He waited patiently at the beginning, but an hour later, he threw the teacup in anger. Now more than 2 hours have passed, and Nicolas Cage still hasn't appeared. None of the staff on the scene spoke loudly, but a strange atmosphere began to spread silently on the set of hundreds of people. The male lead was late on the first day of the official shooting, which was undoubtedly a challenge to the authority of the crew controller. Zack. Hearing the shouting behind the monitor, Zack Snyder put down the camera in his hand and trotted to the director. Call Nicolas Cage's agent Susan and ask her what happened. Wayne's expression was almost squeezed out of water, and he was still trying to suppress his anger. Glancing at the director's face, Zack Snyder immediately looked away, also helpless. John and I have been calling Nicolas Cage, but no one answered. His agent Susan didn't know where he went, and he didn't answer the agent's call either. FXXK. Pa. Wayne threw the director's notebook and the shooting plan book to the ground. On the first day of the official shooting, an unexpected accident occurred that caught him off guard. Wayne felt that he could no longer suppress his anger. Bending down to pick up the 2 black leather books on the ground, Zack Snyder silently placed them on the monitor. It is normal for various accidents to occur during shooting. He has imagined all the situations, but no one expected that, just as the film was about to start, the male lead disappeared and no one could find him. Zack, go and appease the crew first, and notify everyone to rest in place first. John came over with a woman in a professional suit, patted the assistant director on the shoulder, and said to him. Zack Snyder sighed softly, nodded, and walked towards the staff waiting to start shooting. Seeing him start to appease the crew members, John led the woman to the monitor and said to Wayne, who was sitting in the director's chair, she is Nicolas Cage's agent Susan Levine. Let her tell you the details. The agent was dressed in a decent lady's suit, and her flaxen hair was all gathered behind her head and tied into a ponytail. From the slight wrinkles on her face and neck, Wayne could judge that her actual age should be over 35 years old. Time never shows mercy to anyone. Although the other party's makeup is good, if you look carefully, you can still find crow's feet at the corners of her eyes. There is an anxious look on her pretty face. Director Greenberg, I have been calling Nicholas since I received your news. I have been able to get through, but no one answered. Can you help me ask if he was really in the hotel last night? Hearing her words, Wayne looked at the production manager, and John also looked puzzled. Susan, the crew booked a suite for Nicolas Cage. Now we only know that he did check into the hotel, but he went out and no one saw him. You didn't come with him last night. John and Wayne were puzzled. As Nicolas Cage's agent, Susan should have come with his client. The crew also booked a suite for him to facilitate Nicolas Cage's assistant and agent. Zack Snyder had sent someone back to look for him. There was no one in the hotel room. The most important thing was that no one saw when he went out, and no one knew where he went. Susan Levine's anxious face immediately showed an embarrassed look. I went home after sending him to the hotel last night. I was born in New York. My parents and 2 brothers are here. They prepared a part for me. Looking at the director who stood up and paced back and forth, Susan couldn't explain anymore. Call the police. Wayne said the plan he was most reluctant to implement. Now no one knew when Nicolas Cage disappeared. If he really had an accident, it would not be a simple matter of delaying the filming. Warner Brothers and the crew would be in big trouble. Now we have no better way except to ask the police for help. Damn it. After saying that, Wayne kicked the chair next to him. At this moment, he really wanted to smash everything he saw. His face was red with anger. Don't call the police. Don't call the police. Agent Susan and production manager John spoke at the same time. They all knew the consequences of calling the police. All media would definitely surround them like sharks smelling blood and drown them. We can't just wait like this. No one knows what's wrong with him now. If something unexpected happens. Wayne stared at Susan Kevin with a serious expression. He knew the reason why John didn't want to call the police. He was simply afraid that the matter would get out and the crew would face a shutdown and union investigation. But this woman, Susan, do you know something? For the sake of your client's safety, you better speak out. Under Wayne's aggressive gaze, Susan Levin hesitated for a long time before avoiding his gaze. After looking around, she whispered, he might go to a bar, the kind that sells some special drugs. Zach, immediately organize people to go to the small bars around the hotel and find a local to lead the way. Find those small bars where you can enjoy contraband. Go now. Wait, be careful. Don't let the media know about this. With so many people going there, the news will definitely not be hidden, but you must find him before the media figures it out. Also, remind them that no one is allowed to be interviewed. After hearing Susan Levin's guess, he immediately turned around and asked Zack Snyder to organize people to look for him. If he still couldn't find him, there would be no more luck, and Wayne would call the police immediately. This matter could be big or small, and it was no longer an ordinary lateness issue. Susan, has Nicolas Cage been taking banned drugs or smoking leaf tobacco, cocaine, and the like? After making the arrangements, he walked back to his agent and began to ask him in a low voice. Wayne hated these things the most, but he couldn't change the overall environment. Most people in this circle would be more or less involved. Absolutely not. Director Greenberg, Susan Levin would never admit these things. It's just that he has to prepare the script during this period, and he is completely immersed in the role, so he occasionally relies on these to release some mental pressure. Looking at her unnatural expression, Wayne could understand with his, but that things were definitely not as simple as this woman said. He knew that it was impossible to ask anything from her, but he understood why she didn't want to call the police. She was afraid that her client would have contraband with him when he was found by the police. He picked up the chair and sat back. He saw Nina hiding behind the Macute car with Hallberry. He raised his arm and waved to his assistant. Hallberry and Nina came over together. Seeing that he seemed to be much calmer, the assistant spoke boldly. "Boss, what's the matter?" Wayne stretched out his hand and rubbed his temple hard, revealing a little helplessness in his voice. "My cup is broken. Find a way to get me something to drink." Hearing his words, Hallberry quickly turned around and trotted back to the trailer. After a while, she ran back with her own water cup. Here you go. I promise I haven't drunk it yet." Putting the water cup in Wayne's hand, watching him unscrew the lid nonchalantly and drink it down, the two women looked at each other and returned to the Macute trailer. "Nina, has Wayne always been like this on the crew? I mean, has he always been like a tyrant?" Chapter 117. Don't try to lie to me. He is a tyrant. Tyrant? Nina suddenly held the Black Beauty, looked at her boss, and laughed silently. "Harry, I think you have some misunderstandings about Wayne. He was not like this before. Let me tell you, the more he works in the crew, the better his temper will be. You usually don't see him get angry." The assistant's words confused Hallberry. Even if she had never really participated in film production, she had heard that directors are basically bad-tempered, and the bigger the director, the worse the temper. The scene of director Wayne smashing the cup just now was deeply ingrained in the minds of the surrounding employees. Although the ferocious expression only appeared for a moment, it still made everyone instinctively stay away from him, fearing that they would become the target of this man's venting. "Nina, don't lie to me. You also saw his expression this morning." Hallberry poked the assistant's arm. "Otherwise, he wouldn't let you, his closest person, run to hide with me." Thinking back to what happened this morning, Nina was also scared. Wayne was not only very good to her, but also very good to everyone around him, but it was also the first time she saw the boss angry. Don't blame him for getting angry, Harry. Nina follows her boss all day long, and she knows how much Wayne values this film. You don't understand how much Wayne values this film. This is the most important step for him to move towards the upper echelons of Hollywood. If this project fails due to an accident, think about what consequences he will face. Nina understands that the pressure of a full 60 million yuan of funds has made Wayne tense from the moment he signed the contract. This huge pressure is something that no one else can experience. Looking at the various crew members with strange eyes around, almost all of them formed small circles, looking at the direction where the director was, while whispering that, if this matter is not resolved well today, it will definitely affect the director's authority and the crew. Harry, it seems that there is news. Let's go and see. Zack Snyder trotted through the crowd and went straight to the director and producer. You go. I don't want to join in the fun. Seeing Nina also running over worriedly, Halle Berry turned and walked onto the trailer. She didn't believe what the assistant said at all. She only believed in her own judgment. Wayne Greenberg was the real tyrant. Halle Berry felt a chill when she thought of the way she looked when she returned home after leaving the manor that day. The games that man played on her, that trampled on her dignity, still made her feel pain when she thought about it. Afterwards, Halle Berry felt like she was possessed by a demon. How could she willingly deliver herself to the hands of that tyrant? Panting, Zack Snyder ran to the director and producer and whispered to Wayne, who suddenly opened his eyes. We found him in a small bar not far from the hotel. You don't know, this is too dangerous. The bar is almost full of drug addicts. Wayne was relieved to hear that Nicolas Cage had been found. How is he? Didn't you bring him back? He's in pretty good condition. Someone must have given him some tobacco with added ingredients, and the alcohol made Nicholas sleep on the table in that small bar until now. We've already sent him back to the hotel to rest. It's impossible for him to film in that state, but, at this point, Zack Snyder looked at Wayne with some embarrassment, his face full of hesitation. With a snap, Wayne leaned forward on the back of the chair and rubbed his eyebrows with his hand. Tell us what else is wrong. What else did Nicolas Cage do? Looking at the production manager, who was also standing anxiously beside him, Zack Snyder glanced at the surrounding environment, lowered his head and whispered, some media seem to have discovered this. When we returned to the hotel, there were already reporters from the New York Times waiting there. Son of the Bixks. Shit. John and Wayne cursed at each other. Thinking of the consequences of this being exposed, Wayne stood up and kicked the small table away. There is no need for competitors to find reasons to attack. As long as the negative news is mentioned repeatedly by the media before the film is released, the impact on the audience and the box office will definitely not be small. Today's incident completely broke Wayne's defense. He has never been so angry at work. Zack, go and announce the cancellation of today's filming plan and tell them to keep their mouths shut. Wayne pointed at the employees who were watching and then turned to discuss with John. Find a way to deal with the media, man. The investment of $60 million in Joker has such a scandal on the first day of filming. All kinds of newspapers, magazines and TV stations must be crazy. John also felt powerless. What the hell is this? I'll go back to deal with the media first, and I have to report the situation here to the company quickly so that the public relations department can be ready at any time. After saying that, he walked towards the car with a gloomy face, opened the door and got in, and walked back quickly before the car started. Looking at the more than 100 people who were packing up their things, he said with a headache, there are too many people here. Someone must have sold the news to the New York Times. When he said this, the good man John showed a sinister look to Wayne for the first time, and his voice changed. Find a way to find the person who sold the news, Wayne. I will let him know why Warner Brothers and Time Warner are called capital giants. Before he agreed, John turned around and got into the car and left here to rush to the hotel. This matter is not only important to Wayne, the director and the initiator of the project, but also very important to John. His career and Wayne's career are tied together. If this very alternative commercial film can succeed, John can get no less than the director, but the way of profit is different. This is John's shortest shortcut to the position of Warner Brothers executive. If a first-line project with an investment of $60 million fails, Wayne, the director, will definitely have the opportunity to start from scratch with a small cost, which is nothing more than spending a few more years. Don't forget his racial advantage. In the end, there will definitely be people willing to support him and help him make a comeback. John, the first producer and production manager of the crew, will definitely be the one to take the blame. Warner Brothers will not hesitate to throw the responsibility to him. Watching the car speeding away, Wayne sat in the chair thinking about solutions, thinking about how to minimize the impact so that the film can be shot smoothly. Wayne didn't stand up from the chair until he, the director, and his assistants Nina and Sergey were the only three people left on the street. He After getting in the car, he watched Sergey moving his chair and laughed at Nina. "Boss, are you okay?" Seeing her boss suddenly laughing, Nina looked worried. "Of course, I just thought that the props team had moved everything away, but no one came to remind me to move the chair. Is there anything funny?" Nina understood why no one reminded him. No one wanted to offend the director at this time. If he was regarded as a channel for venting, how unfair it would be. The car drove smoothly on the streets of New York. Wayne stared at this busy metropolis in a trance. The pace of life in this city was much faster than that in Los Angeles. The road was full of men and women in suits and ties who were in a hurry. If you hadn't given me a job at that time, I might have been one of these busy people. I would also deal with numbers on Wall Street every day in a suit, with a salary that was just enough to survive in this city, but I dreamed of settling down in this metropolis. Nina's low muttering came to his ears, and Wayne turned around and smiled at the assistant lady with an ordinary figure and face. "In fact, you did a very good job. Believe me, if you suddenly take a leave of absence for half a month now, both my work and life will definitely become a mess." After being with Wayne for so long, the most thorough thing Nina saw was that Hollywood can function without anyone. The same is true for the assistant job. If she is really gone one day, another outstanding person will only appear in a very short time. "Boss, please don't let me lose my job. I have 2 younger brothers in college and your salary is very important to me." "What are you thinking about? It's just a small matter. The crew won't die because of such a small matter." Wayne shook his head. He was indeed furious about this small matter, but it didn't mean that this matter was difficult to solve. Chapter 118 Wayne, don't bother me. There are many worse things in Hollywood than this. External work is nothing more than a public relations problem. It's just that the crew's shooting time may become tight. Wayne's original plan was to complete all the material shots before Christmas. The unexpected appearance of Nicolas Cage will definitely lead to a long period of catching up. Now we can only hope that this matter will not delay too much time. The car slowly stopped in front of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. After the doorman helped open the door, Wayne and Nina, who had not yet gotten in and out of the car, gave a tip and quickly stepped aside. There were about a dozen reporters surrounding him at the hotel entrance. Director Greenberg, I heard that Nicolas Cage, the leading actor of Joker, stayed overnight in a bar and was absent from the first day of filming. Wayne, do you regret choosing this leading actor? There is definite news that Nicolas Cage is dissatisfied with you. Director Greenberg, tell me what you are going to do with the leading actor. Turning back to see that his boss was surrounded by reporters and couldn't move, Sergey didn't bother to park the car. He threw the car keys to the doorman and rushed in. His bear-like size put a lot of pressure on the group of reporters. With his head down and squeezing forward without saying a word, Wayne finally squeezed into the hotel door with the help of Sergey. This door was like a dividing line, and all the media reporters were stopped outside by the hotel security. Are they all crazy? Sergey was distressed as he adjusted his suit. This suit was specially given to Wayne by his housekeeper Hella when he found a tailor to help Wayne customize his clothes. Usually he treasured this handmade suit very much, which was a handmade product worth tens of thousands of dollars. Since the filming started without a media meeting, Wayne was afraid that these reporters would affect the crew's work, but he didn't expect that he couldn't escape this time. He walked to the elevator without saying a word and with a sullen face. After Zack Snyder, who was waiting in the elevator, pressed the floor, he also took him to Nicolas Cage's room in silence. The atmosphere in the room was obviously not very good. John sat on one side, and opposite him was the skinny male lead in pajamas. His agent was obviously arguing with John. The arrival of Nicholas Wayne made the eyes of the 3 people stop on his face. After he sat next to John, he stretched out his hand and gently pointed at Nicolas Cage. Now I need you to give me an explanation that can convince me. Wearing a pajamas, Nicolas Cage's strange face revealed fatigue. He looked at the director who was pointing at him, and the apology he had prepared long ago was also drowned in his pride. I didn't want this to happen. I just smoked a big marijuana that was spiked with something. His voice became hoarse and torn. Don't bother me. His agent Susan immediately covered his mouth, her eyes revealing disbelief. These were not the words she had just given him. It seems that your mind is not clear yet. Wayne was almost amused by him. He thought Nicolas Cage was just arrogant because of his talent, but he didn't expect that his mind was really not so clear. He deserved to be cheated and bankrupted for making bad movies in the future. Listen, Mr. Cage. Wayne took the bag from the assistant behind him, took out a cigarette and lit it, took a deep breath and said, "There are at least 20 different media under this hotel, and they are all waiting for news from you, a drug addict. If the cruise filming is delayed because of this farce, believe me, you will definitely not be able to compensate for the losses. I remember that the contract signed between John and you has anti-drug clauses. Do you need me to speak with the contract?" "Of course not," Susan immediately said loudly. He pulled his client and walked directly to the master bedroom. "Director Greenberg, give me 10 minutes. I will make Nicholas sober up." Looking coldly at Nicolas Cage, who was dragged away unwillingly, all the shooting plans for today were ruined, and there were also subsequent media troubles, but he didn't even have the slightest regret. "I just asked someone to go to the bar there to check it out." John's face was also very ugly, and he pointed to the master bedroom with his finger. He not only smoked tobacco with added ingredients, drank half a bottle of Chivas, but even more shitty, Mr. Cage also smoked a small amount of coca. Slowly sucking on the Marlboro in his hand, Wayne said nothing, silently listening to John's narration of the whole thing. In fact, the savage may not really be blamed on Nicolas Cage. He was also cheated. The small bar in New York is not the one he often goes to in Los Angeles. Seeing him spend money so happily on buying alcohol and tobacco, naturally someone would set his sights on his wallet. After he was confused by the smoke, he was given a lot of strong liquor and things he shouldn't touch. Wayne felt that these Hollywood stars sometimes did things without thinking. When you come to a strange place, even if you want to have a drink to relieve stress, you should bring a few crew members with you. You have received millions of dollars in salary, and you are not short of that money. You can invite a few people to have a drink together and ensure your own safety. About 10 minutes later, just when Wayne was almost impatient, Susan Levine came out with her clients. With a slightly unyielding look on his face, Nicolas Cage walked up to John and the others and bowed gently. "I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, Director Greenberg, this is all my fault. The dieting during this period and the immersion in the role made me feel very bad, which caused all these troubles. I apologize to you for the trouble I caused." Agent Susan breathed a sigh of relief after seeing him finish and quickly pressed him to sit on the sofa, saying to the two of them, "I'm sorry, Nicola didn't mean it, and this will never happen again in the future." Turning his head and looking at the production manager, Wayne nodded slightly to Nicolas Cage, indicating that he accepted his apology. The most important thing now is to solve the problem, and it is definitely not the time to create internal conflicts. As for the way to deal with this matter, Wayne can, of course, as the second producer, represent Warner Brothers to hold Nicolas Cage accountable and even kick him out of the crew. But what's the point of that? It will only delay more filming work and fail to complete the film within the expected time. Compared with the investment risk of tens of millions of dollars, the Nicolas Cage incident can only be regarded as a trivial matter. The few people in the room, including Wayne himself, are not worth $60 million US. After extinguishing the cigarette in his hand, Wayne stood up and walked to the window to look out, pointing downstairs and said, "Now, we must first deal with the media reporters downstairs. Otherwise large-scale malicious reports will only affect the mentality of the crew members. I would rather not hype the film in this way." The reporters downstairs did not leave when Wayne came back. On the contrary, more gossip tabloids rushed over in groups like sharks smelling blood. The public relations department of Warner Brothers should also be doing its work. At least Wayne did not notice the New York Times that appeared first. Now all the small and medium-sized media are waiting for opportunities downstairs. These media will make up things to attract attention when they have nothing to do. What's more, what might really happen now? The favorite thing for these people is to compile celebrity news and gossip. If these celebrities can't help but sue them, it will be a time for these tabloids to revel. If you sue them, it will increase their attention. They all wish someone would sue them every day. What should we do? Agent Susan Levin asked with a frown. We must not let these media reporters know about this. This is also responsible for the Joker project. Wayne was furious again. When he mentioned this, he almost blurted out after looking at Susan Levine. Now that he knew he was responsible for the project, why would he smoke leaf tobacco? Don't even think about it. Those paparazzi will definitely go to that bar. It can't be concealed. Wayne didn't care about Nicolas Cage's shitty image. Besides, there are many people in Hollywood who are worse than him and more popular than him. As long as the public opinion is well guided, no audience will boycott anyone because of these things. So, we will hold a press conference on the set tomorrow to clarify this matter. Mr. Cage, you should be more serious when facing the media. You went to that bar to experience the life of Arthur the Joker and got cheated. Do you understand? Wayne walked back to the coffee table and reached out to touch Nicolas Cage's chest. This action was very impolite. With the elite education that the Greenberg family had given him since he was a child, he shouldn't have done it. But the trouble caused by this big star with a strange appearance made him have nowhere to vent his anger. Wayne might have cared about his relationship with the other party in the past, but now he just wants to maintain a working relationship with the other party until the film production is completed. Chapter 119. The Cold, Tyrannical Wayne Greenberg. Susan Levin looked at Nicolas Cage worriedly. Her client was a literary and artistic person with a unique personality. She didn't know if he would lose his temper because of this strong director. Unexpectedly, facing Wayne's serious words to him and the finger falling on him, Nicolas Cage did not have too much emotion. He just nodded and said that he remembered his words. John, you should communicate more with Warner. Don't let the big media get involved in this matter, otherwise it won't have much influence. These gossip tabloids and local TV stations will broadcast news just as gimmicks and can't guide public opinion. After instructing Nicolas Cage, he said a few more words to the production manager with concern. No problem, there will be no accidents in the public relations department of Warner, and the big media will generally give Time Warner face. John waved his arms in the direction of Los Angeles to increase the persuasiveness of his words. Wayne was not worried about this. If it didn't work, everyone would give Time Warner face a little. What he was afraid of was that someone would take the opportunity to make trouble. If no one takes this opportunity to make trouble, and everyone understands the background of Warner Brothers, this little thing is not a big deal. If someone takes the opportunity to mess with the crew and delays or overspends their filming, it will be disgusting. With 2 consecutive box office bombs that have both good box office and good reputation, Wayne is no longer a small figure in Hollywood. If his film can have some minor problems and cannot be released at the normal time, I believe many people are willing to try. Again, the North American theater market is so small. Since you always have oil dripping from the corners of your mouth when you eat, it proves that I will definitely eat less or even not eat enough. In this era of cooperation and competition among the 6 major Hollywood studios, anything can happen. That's it for now. All the more than 100 people in the crew are resting today. Mr. Cage, you have delayed the work of more than 100 people. Wayne said again, before walking out of Nicolas Cage's suite. I hope you can put away your pride and apologize to everyone tomorrow morning. After all, you have delayed everyone's efforts alone. Looking at Wayne's aggressive eyes, Susan Levine hurried over. Nicola will apologize to everyone, I promise. Director Greenberg, yes. After leaving the suite, Zack Snyder, who was unknown, went back to his room first, while Wayne and John went upstairs with their assistants. On the way, the production manager kept looking at Wayne, as if he had discovered something different. When they arrived at the director's presidential suite, he couldn't help but sigh. I never knew that you had such a strong side to your character. You never showed such a character during the entire filming of Get Out. His words made Wayne himself stunned for a moment, and then he smiled bitterly and shook his head. John, that's because we are working very smoothly on the crew. The Get Out crew is relatively harmonious, and your personality is not strong and overbearing. Since the work is going well, what reason do I have to be angry? This time is different. The Joker project is too important to both you and me. To be honest, every day when I close my eyes, I feel the pressure brought by the $60 million investment, and sometimes I have nightmares about the failure of the film. In the past, no matter what difficulties I encountered during the filming, I never got angry like this morning. I always knew that no matter how bad my temper was, it would not help the filming of the film. On the contrary, it is very likely to cause frequent mistakes in the crew's work. But today, shaking his head helplessly again, Wayne opened his door and collapsed directly on the large sofa. John did not come in. After taking a look at the state of his partner, he walked to his room. As a production manager, he still has a lot of work to do. Unlike what Wayne told John. In fact, normally speaking, the personality revealed by Wayne now is formed by the good education of the Greenberg family. No one knows what his true personality is like. This is a talented actor who has been acting since he was old enough to understand and has been accustomed to showing another face to others. Even Wayne himself does not understand what he should be like. The soul on the other side of the Pacific Ocean was dull in his youth, but then he was seriously ill, but liked bloody and violent souls. Coupled with the strength hidden under American education, no one can figure out what he should be like. However, Professor Anderson Horowitz of the University of Southern California's Art and Film Production once gave some comments to his proud student. The adjectives for his character are cold, cruel, clear-headed, and determined. As a professor who has educated students for a lifetime, Anderson Horowitz saw through him at a glance the disguise under the skin of a good elite education. Just like Nina ignored Hallberry's evaluation, maybe this black pearl is right in some aspects. She has witnessed the brutal and bestial side of this man with her own eyes. But the image that Wayne left to those around him is always tolerant and generous and nostalgic. Nina, is my temper today really scary? Thinking of this question, he asked his assistant again. Nina, who was staring at the fashion magazine, shifted her gaze to her boss. She put down the magazine helplessly, spread her hands and said, "It's not very scary, but it's very frightening, especially the expression on your face when you smash the cup. It's like a beast that wants to eat people has been released, making everyone want to stay away from you. Should I prepare a confidentiality agreement and find a psychiatrist?" Wayne also vaguely felt that he had some mental problems. With his clear mind at all times, it is impossible for him to be like this for no reason. Haha, boss, you don't know, Hallberry described you as a tyrant. After saying that, seeing her boss lighting a cigarette and falling into deep thought, Nina shrugged and continued to pick up the fashion magazine. Anyway, it's not the first time that she has seen Wayne like this. He is easily distracted when thinking about things. Just pay attention to helping him take away the cigarette butts at any time, so that he doesn't always burn his fingers. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking on the door interrupted Wayne's thinking. He was also hesitating whether to really make a confidentiality agreement and go to a psychiatrist to see what's wrong with him. Sometimes, some thoughts in his mind are even very abnormal. Hi, Harry. Hi, Nina. Is Wayne busy? Hearing the greeting from the door, Wayne shook his head vigorously and put the question behind him. Come in, Harry. What do you want to talk to me about? After entering the door, Hallberry sat opposite Wayne. She had obviously taken a shower and changed her clothes. Her chocolate-colored skin was like the silk Wayne had seen in his previous life, tender and shiny. A pair of light blue tight jeans, paired with a khaki short-sleeved t-shirt, ordinary and refreshing clothes, made this woman who was in the most beautiful stage of her life look particularly attractive. What Wayne praised most about Hallberry was her chocolate-colored skin, which was neither as large pores as white girls, nor as dark as most African girls. This black pearl was so beautiful when she was young that she didn't look like an African, and she was completely different from her image on the internet and later generations. Let me see how things are going. Is Nicolas Cage okay? This is Hallberry's first Hollywood film, a role she exchanged for with her body and dignity. If the crew's filming is delayed because of today's trouble, she will probably cry to death. He's fine. The film will start shooting tomorrow. You don't have to worry about it. Wayne's eyes patrolled Black Pearl's body, sometimes staying on the long legs and hips unique to African Americans, and sometimes staying on the delicate face. When the assistant saw that his boss was capable, he knew that he couldn't stay here. Surgery was smart. If he wasn't called, he would hide in the suite and watch TV and never come out. Following his gaze, Hallberry immediately understood what he meant. It seemed that this man still missed his body very much. Noticing that Nina quietly returned to the room, she licked her lips gently at Wayne. Wayne, I've never seen a presidential suite in a 5-star hotel. Don't you want to take me on a tour? Black Pearl stood up with a pair of long legs and directly crossed the coffee table, looking at him with a sweet smile. Of course, Harry, you are still so smart. Wayne picked up the Black Pearl, kicked open the door of the master bedroom, and closed the door with his legs. A scream came from the bedroom, and then a sentence was faintly heard. Honey, be gentle, don't hurt me this time. I still have to shoot tomorrow. Thank you for your rewards and monthly tickets. Thank you for your support and encouragement. Chapter 120. I don't remember anything. At 6:30 the next morning, accompanied by the rush of the crowd in the Big Apple, the Joker crew, consisting of several trailers, rushed to a street in Brooklyn again. The fuss that happened yesterday was still brewing among the staff, and they formed small circles to discuss it quietly. Nicolas Cage, who was at the center of the incident, had a gloomy face. He didn't feel very comfortable in the invisible center of hundreds of people's discussion. The New York police officers who closed the road on both sides of the road had their police uniforms neatly arranged. There were at least 20 or 30 media reporters in front of them. If some photographers with leisure time took some unbearable photos, it would be a lot of fun. It was originally a good job to come here to carry out the road closure mission. It was much more comfortable than patrolling the streets in the sun. The logistics of the crew on the scene would also send them some coffee or something. Facing the large group of reporters and photographers a few meters away, the police officers all remained highly vigilant. As the grassroots managers of this metropolis, no one knew what these small and medium media were like better than them. A middle-aged police officer with a bulging belly walked out of the crew. He came to the cordon with his fat body and panted, and said to the police officer guarding here, "Philip, let them in. The head of the crew wants to hold a small press conference on the scene." Philip Lasher breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he didn't have to face this group of troublesome people. He and two colleagues quickly pulled away the yellow cordon and flashed away from the street in trance. "Gentlemen, be quiet." The seriously fat police officer Thompson calmed his breath and shouted to the messy reporters. After everyone's eyes were on him, he waved his hand. "The crew producer invites you to go in. They are going to hold a small media conference. Ladies and gentlemen, keep quiet, otherwise it will be ugly if anyone is kicked out. Come on." A large number of media reporters and cameramen carrying cameras walked into the street under the leadership of the fat police officer Thompson. This section of the road was not long. The mottled and old sides were full of busy staff, and trailers were used at both ends to block the view outside. Leading the group to a set of prepared steps, the fat police officer nodded to John, turned around and walked back to the blocked street. 3 tables were put together to form a long stage under the steps, and Wayne, John and Nicolas Cage sat behind the table. Zack Snyder, who was acting as a temporary host, clapped his hands vigorously. "Ladies and gentlemen, please keep quiet." At the request of all media friends, the crew decided to hold a temporary press conference here. "Now we will give you time to ask questions. Raise your hands and I will try to get everyone to ask." After that, when everyone was quiet at the scene, Zack Snyder nodded to Nicolas Cage and the other two sitting in the middle and casually pointed to a beautiful reporter in the front row. The cameramen following the reporters collectively opened their portable photography equipment, and all their cameras were aimed at the 3 people sitting in front. Mr. Greenberg, the male lead, stayed overnight at the bar on the first day of the crew's official filming. "Will this cause a rift between you and affect your cooperation?" Unexpectedly, the first question was directed at him. Wayne smiled at the reporters and put his arm around Nicolas Cage. "Of course it won't affect our cooperation. Nicholas went to that small bar just to experience the role better, but he obviously underestimated the drug addicts in New York." The female reporter asked directly without waiting for Zack Snyder to point to someone. "Are you saying that Nicolas Cage was cheated?" "Yes." He didn't take back his arm around the male lead, patted his shoulder and said, "Nicholas wanted to experience the role, but someone inexplicably poured a lot of alcohol into him and emptied his wallet." Zack Snyder waited for Wayne to finish speaking and immediately pointed at someone else. "If this woman kept asking questions, how long would the press conference last? Will the film be shot?" "Mr. Cage, did they only give you strong liquor? Did they give you anything else?" "What?" Nicolas Cage pretended to be stupid first, then scratched his hair. I don't remember. I only remember asking for a bottle of beer, and then the crew found me and sent me back to the hotel to rest. When they woke me up, I found that my wallet had been emptied and only a driver's license was left. From the moment Nicolas Cage started talking, the scene immediately became a sound of shutters, and flashes flashed from time to time. No matter what he said, as long as the photos and images were taken, the mission of these cameramen was completed. After Nicolas Cage finished speaking, a reporter immediately asked, "Are you saying you don't remember anything?" "Yes, I have no impression of what happened that night." "Mr. Gray, how is the crew going to deal with Nicolas Cage's absence from the filming?" A reporter dressed like a black woman pointed the microphone at the production manager. "The responsibility for this matter cannot be completely put on Mr. Cage. He is also a victim of this incident. The crew has called the New York Police Department and only hopes to find the robbers." John's answer was steady. "No one knows more about Take I than the producer." The black lady was obviously dissatisfied with the producer's answer and turned the topic to the person involved. "Mr. Cage, a reporter went to that small bar to investigate. Someone witnessed you smoking a lot of leaf tobacco and drinking half a bottle of liquor. Does this mean that you were sober at the time?" "Sorry, everyone only has one chance to ask a question." Zack Snyder interrupted her before she finished speaking. If no one answered this question, there would be no problem. As long as Nicolas Cage opened his mouth, he would be distorted into what he would be like afterwards. Next. "Wayne, you said that this matter will not affect your cooperation with Mr. Cage. How is your relationship?" Wayne squeezed out a sunny smile on his face again and hugged Nicolas Cage happily. "You know, Nicolas Cage and I are of the same age, we get along very well, and we are just different jobs in the crew, so we have always been good brothers." After saying this, he winked at Zack Snyder, and the assistant director immediately clapped his hands vigorously, attracting attention to himself. "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the interview time is over." He waved and greeted several props team members. "The crew is about to start filming. Let's stop here today. I'll take you out." "No. One last question. Nicholas, I heard that you not only drank a lot of strong liquor, smoked leaf tobacco, but also took cocaine. This is not a brainless person." Before the black female reporter finished speaking, she was surrounded and taken out by Zack Snyder and his men. Even her colleagues who came with her looked at her in silence. This African American woman just didn't have a brain. This is the crew of Warner Brothers. It's very good that they can give face and hold an impromptu press conference, but she didn't have a brain to ask some sensitive questions. Is she the only one who knows that? Why don't others touch this bad luck? No one present knew what this matter was like. Sometimes these African Americans really didn't know their skin color. As a large number of media reporters left the street, the scene immediately returned to silence. Everyone present was looking at the male protagonist. Even while working, they were paying attention to the news here. John raised his wrist to check the time. It was 7:30, and there was enough time to gather everyone before filming. So he picked up the loudspeaker on Wayne's director's chair, turned it on, and called all the employees over. The crowd gathered together, and from time to time some people put down their things and ran over. "Okay, everyone, be quiet. Mr. Cage has something to say to everyone about something that happened yesterday." Turning his head to look at Nicolas Cage, who had an unpleasant expression, John handed the loudspeaker to Susan and asked her to communicate with her clients. After more than 10 seconds of silence, Nicolas Cage's unhealthy face suddenly flushed. He took the loudspeaker and took 2 steps forward, standing in front of everyone. "I apologize for wasting everyone's working time yesterday. I promise that I didn't do this on purpose, and it won't happen again." Chapter 121. 2 clowns traveling through time and space. After saying that, he looked in the direction of the director with an ugly face, biting his teeth hard in his mouth. It was a serious trampling on his pride and dignity to admit his mistakes in front of hundreds of people. Everyone around him was buzzing instantly. Too many people's whispers were like rushing into a hornet's nest, and these people looked at Nicolas Cage with incredible eyes. "Go back to work. We will start shooting the first scene immediately." Ignoring Nicolas Cage's ugly face, Wayne took the megaphone from his hand and shouted. As the crowd slowly dispersed, he turned around and pointed at the trailer without changing his expression. "Mr. Cage, you'd better change your costume and put on makeup now." After saying that, he returned to the monitor with the megaphone, opened the plan book on the small table, and ticked the first plan at the beginning. The filming plan of the film has been delayed for a day. He has no time to care about the feelings of the protagonist. Nicolas Cage is an adult, and adults have to pay some price for making mistakes. He should have understood these principles since he was a child. This matter has made Wayne feel very disgusted. If he had known this, he would not have used this troublesome character, even if he had used Jack Nicholson to slowly break his acting style. Nicolas Cage is indeed a talented actor. His devotion to the characters is also amazing, but his personality before maturity is simply a disaster. There are many dedicated people in Hollywood. Superstars like Tom Cruise still know how to climb buildings in their 50s. "Are you all ready?" He looked up and saw Zack Snyder coming over. After asking, he found that everyone was waiting for him to start at the bottom of the stairs. "Okay, let's get started." After speaking to his assistant director, he stood up and walked to the camera crew in person. After nodding to Robert, he called all the photography assistants and began to state his requirements. This is the first shot material to be shot after a long period of preparation for the Joker project. He is going to shoot it himself. After sending away several photography assistants, he waved to Zack Snyder, who had been following him, and pointed to the director's monitor. "Go ahead, you have a chance to direct as a director. Go and try that fascinating feeling. Are you okay?" the assistant director asked in a low voice before leaving. Before Wayne could say anything, Steve, who was holding the lamp, made a strange sound. "My God, Zack, didn't you look at your boss's information when you applied?" Wayne is a well-rounded graduate of USC, a well-rounded person. He shot Happy Death Day by himself holding a camera. He pushed the assistant directors back and walked towards the monitor. "Didn't you see that Robert had no objection? Come on, your predecessor Luke Simmons also did this. Now it's your turn." Carefully fine-tuning the camera in front of him, Wayne gradually found a familiar feeling. Not to mention that he has specialized in camera work. Even for ordinary directors who have high demands on themselves, this is a must-have skill. It is not uncommon for people to personally shoot important shots, and Wayne naturally wants to shoot the important first shot himself. If it is unrealistic for him to be both a director and a director of photography, there is no problem in temporarily directing the camera crew. Carefully observing the steps in the camera, Wayne raised his hand to check the time and asked casually, "Is the male lead not ready yet? It will take a while, and we are putting makeup on him." Ignoring the assistant director Karen, who was following him, Wayne walked up the steps step by step. When he reached the middle, he closed his eyes and slowly opened his hands. Robert below seemed to have thought of something instantly and immediately pointed at Karen beside Wayne and asked him to leave there. Then he took 2 steps to the camera and gestured to the nearby camera assistant. Slowly, Wayne seemed to have music in his head. 2 men appeared vaguely at the top of the stairs behind him. He didn't pay attention to the surrounding environment, as if a mask appeared on his face. Zack Snyder almost jumped up behind the monitor. Wayne in the center of the screen was shot from top to bottom, and it was shot very clearly, especially the expression on his face. He was smiling. Nicolas Cage, who also came with makeup on, also stared silently at the director, who made him hate him. He slowly waved his arms, raised his right foot, and followed the picture in his mind, and began a synchronized dance across time and space. The Joaquin Phoenix in his mind was like a teacher, leading another person in another time and space. Dozens of crew members stopped their work. Although most people were confused, no one was stupid enough to interrupt at this time. In just a dozen seconds, Wayne seemed to wake up suddenly. He put his right hand on his lower abdomen with a smile, put his left hand behind his back, and gently bowed to everyone below. "Hey, the entertainment time is over. Let's start working, and all departments start preparing." Walking down the stairs quickly, Wayne loudly directed the crowd watching the excitement. "You are simply a genius, Wayne." Robert walked away from the camera and stared at his director with complicated eyes. Maybe other employees didn't understand what he was doing, but the core team members who had read the script more than once would understand what was going on. They all had a feeling at this time. No wonder Wayne wrote this scene. "Nicholas, don't be influenced by my way of playing. Just follow your training and immerse yourself in Arthur. Think about what he is going to do. After telling Nicolas Cage his request and seeing that he understood, he returned to the back of the camera and waved his hand. After the two background actors at the top were in place and Nicolas Cage tried a few times, the script supervisor came over and put the script supervisor card in front of Wayne's main camera lens. Joker, first scene, first act, start. Nicolas Cage in the camera was wearing a red costume and a white clown make-up on his face. He smiled and danced slowly. The Joker had to dance a total of 7 times in this film, but this time was the most impressive to Wayne. Just like the Joaquin Phoenix in his mind just now, Nicolas Cage, who made himself look like a person, performed beyond his training level. Cut. The sudden voice interrupted Wayne's concentration, and he and everyone else turned around to look at the temporary director. Zack Snyder picked up the megaphone angrily and yelled at the two actors at the top. "What are you two doing? Damn it, why can't you just practice it? Remember your position, gentlemen." After saying that, he sat back on the monitor. Zack also felt very sorry. Whether it was the lighting or the photography, or Nicolas Cage's perfect performance, everything was messed up. Wayne, who was in charge of the camera, also understood what was going on. Some things were only clear to the director who controlled the overall situation. It must be that the background actors did not move according to the plan, affecting the male protagonist in the center of the camera. Reset everything. Let's start again. With Zack Snyder's voice, the quiet scene quickly moved. Nicolas Cage looked behind him in confusion and took 2 steps helplessly, ready to start again. Joker, the first scene, the first act, start. With the sound of snap, everyone on the scene consciously shut their mouths, and Nicolas Cage in the camera started his performance again. And then only a few seconds later, the director shouted again. "Steve, the lighting is not right. Go see what your assistant is doing. Ask him if he is working in the emergency room. Ask him to put away the emergency lighting, like in the operating room." Wayne now seriously doubted that Zack Snyder had the potential to become a powder keg on the set. He directed such a large crew for the first time and obviously could not control his temper. Joker, the first. Maybe it was some evil spirit or the crew members were unfamiliar with the cooperation. This scene was like being cursed. It was either this problem or that problem. This process was repeated until lunchtime. None of the shots of this monologue had a satisfactory effect. A lot of film was wasted, but not even one effective shot was shot. Not only did the crew members look irritated, but even Wayne, who had been holding the camera, also looked annoyed. He understood that this negative emotion was contagious. "Zack, let everyone rest. We can't go on like this. Look at Nicolas Cage." Following Wayne's finger, Zack Snyder, with a red face, saw the exhausted actor. He knew that he still had too little experience, and Wayne respected him, and was unwilling to replace him in front of everyone. Chapter 120 to Cantonese cuisine. Take a break, and continue in the afternoon. Zack Snyder felt overwhelmed by the huge crew. After each failed shoot, he always couldn't control his temper, and was unfamiliar with the coordination of various types of work. This is completely different from shooting commercials and MTVs. There are too many things to consider in film production. Let Robert go back to shoot. I'll go to coordinate the shooting issues of various departments. You have to come back to command all of us. Zack Snyder stared at the male protagonist who was supported by his agent in the distance, and then realized that he was too immature and ignored too many problems. Have you thought about it, Zack? In fact, from the third NG, he knew Zack Snyder's current ability. He was definitely very talented, but he was too idealistic and took it for granted. This was not a crew that fully cooperated with each other. Everyone was slowly looking for points of cooperation. The more pressure Zack Snyder put on the crew, the greater the probability of making mistakes. To put it bluntly, this thing is completely different from controlling and coordinating a crew of more than 10 or 20 people to shoot a simple commercial. I've thought about it. I'm not a genius like you. I need more learning and experience before I can consider that position. He shook his head. The cold reality that he suddenly realized made Zack Snyder very depressed. He originally thought that he was just missing an opportunity. As long as good luck came, he would definitely soar to the sky with his directing talent. But now, it was obvious that he was blinded by pride. Okay, Zach, participate in this film with your heart, and participate in the entire production process of a film. It is more enriching than any experience. Looking at the scattered people around him taking a break, Wayne also prepared to eat something. Also, don't squeeze the actors like that, especially your male lead. Nicolas Cage's performance this morning was very good. Go talk to him when you have time. If it were a more famous star, the filming would definitely not last more than 2 hours. After saying that, regardless of whether Zack Snyder understood it or not, he turned around and walked straight to the director's trailer. This type of trailer is still exclusive to Hollywood crews because it is very convenient for location shooting. After more than a decade, this kind of trailer will gradually appear in the entertainment circles of countries around the world, becoming the exclusive property of those big stars and directors. Actually, you don't have to come. Your role will take at least half a month. Halle Berry, who was helping to set up lunch in the trailer, turned around and smiled sweetly at Wayne when she saw him coming up. Halle Berry picked up the water cup and handed it to him. After he sat down, he said, "Then why should I go? Stay in the hotel all the time. Why not come and watch the filming? You know, I don't know much about these." Wayne raised his head and drank water without paying attention to this woman. It was her freedom to do whatever she wanted. Now he didn't have too much energy to waste on her. The lunch customized by the crew logistics was average, but it was always enough to make people full. Nina knew her boss's style. If she could enjoy it under the conditions, she would never wrong herself. So she drove to Chinatown in the lower city at the southern end of Manhattan, asked the locals, and chose a Chinese restaurant. If her boss thought it was good today, he would ask them to deliver the food on time starting tomorrow. Faced with a high tip that exceeded the original meal cost, Nina successfully persuaded the fat Chinese boss from the other side of the Pacific Ocean. This was learned by the assistant from her boss's attitude towards Cameron Diaz. As long as it can make him feel more comfortable, Wayne does not lack the extra effort of Franklin. "Boss, how about trying it?" Nina pointed to the several lunch boxes on the table proudly. "I specifically told the fat boss to make Chinese style dishes and not to change the version to cater to the market. Looks good." Wayne picked up the chopsticks skillfully, and the first bite was the famous Cantonese roast goose. He couldn't remember how long he hadn't eaten this thing. Hella's husband learned a simple Chinese noodle, but he certainly couldn't make these things. The fat boss mentioned by the assistant should be a first-generation immigrant. He cooks Cantonese cuisine very well, and it is completely pure Chinese. This is very rare here. After all, Americans are not used to eating pure Chinese food. Roast goose, barbecued pork, steamed sea bass, blanched broccoli, garlic choy sum, 2 baskets of custard buns, 2 baskets of steamed shrimp dumplings, and a large portion of dry fried beef noodles. Wayne tried them all and gave the assistant a thumbs up. Seeing her smug look, Wayne didn't expose her. This habit and method of ordering dishes was obviously Chinese, and it was absolutely impossible for an American girl to match them. "Okay, you guys eat. I have to prepare for the afternoon work." Putting down the small bowl in his hand, Wayne said hello to the 2 women and got off the trailer. Halle Berry breathed a sigh of relief and spit out the roast goose in her mouth after he walked down. My god, why does he like to eat such strange things? These things are not as delicious as the Chinese food made by Hella's husband. Don't force yourself, Harry. Nina actually couldn't get used to Chinese food, but she wouldn't pretend in front of Wayne. If she didn't like it, she wouldn't eat it. Thinking of the same woman, Nina said one more sentence. "You don't have to do this." The working atmosphere in the afternoon suddenly changed. The cooperation between the various departments of the crew was no longer impatient. Wayne's expressionless face, which never got angry, was always hidden behind the monitor, which made most people feel at ease. The countless trial and error in the morning was still effective. In addition, Zack Snyder returned to his familiar position, and his coordination ability was also good after the pressure was gone. "Cut. This one passed," Wayne shouted after watching the playback behind the monitor. Although Nicolas Cage was a bit of a jerk when he was young, his acting talent was really great. Wayne looked at his watch, picked up the megaphone and shouted, "Zack, let the extras come in. Pay attention to tell them the positioning problem. We will shoot another one, and we will call it a day after shooting. In fact, he thought that this scene was a very difficult one-man show, and it would be good to be able to finish it before dark. Arranging such a difficult scene was not only to let Nicolas Cage get into the state quickly, but also to run in the crew. If he followed his previous method, he would definitely start with simple indoor scenes, but this time was tight, so he had to start with the more difficult ones. The extras quickly entered the scene, and the street immediately created an effect of a crowd of pedestrians. The two male actors who played the police were also ready on the top of the stairs. Joker, first act, second act, start. With the sound of the board, everyone began to work silently and busy again. The plot of this scene is very simple. As long as Nicolas Cage runs a few shots showing his face, Brandon Lee will help him complete it later. This is the biggest role of the stand-in, which is to minimize the chance of the main character being injured. To put it bluntly, if an insignificant grassroots staff member is injured, the most he will have to do is give some money and medical treatment. But if the male lead of the crew is injured, hundreds of people will have to wait for him indefinitely, and the loss caused will be too great. Cut, no problem. Zach, pack up the film and put it in the safe in my room. Karen, organize everyone to finish work. Under the temptation of leaving, get off work early. The simple shots were completed perfectly in 2 passes, and the crew's first day of work was actually completed quite well. Because Wayne's original plan was just to polish that one shot, at least now the main shot of this street has been shot. He ticked a box on the second page of the shooting plan. It was not even 5 o'clock yet, and no one expected to get off work early. Although they didn't like Wayne's icy face when he was working, they liked his style of keeping his word. Should we change the shooting plan? John automatically disappeared after the crew started shooting, and would come out after the shooting was over. He knew that he should never interfere with the work he was not good at, otherwise it would only make a mess. I have been observing Nicolas Cage. After you danced that dance, he was obviously aroused by his unyielding character, and his condition was so good. If it weren't for the crew dragging him down, we could have shot more scenes today. Wayne shook his head and put away his 2 most precious notebooks. No need to change, John. You have to know that not only the behind the scenes work needs to be adjusted with the actors, but the actors also need to cooperate with the entire behind the scenes team to run in. While packing his belongings and handing them to Nina, he chatted with John. Only when everyone is well coordinated can the progress of the later stage be accelerated. There are still many difficult parts in this film. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Rapid Progress. Wayne and the production manager chatted casually. Although the crew was not smooth before the official shooting, Nicolas Cage lived up to the evaluation of genius after the shooting. This made all the core team members feel relieved. Although the tacit understanding of the behind-the-scenes workers cannot burst out in an instant, it can always be polished by working time. The actor's own state is the soul of a play, and this movie is a naked one-man show. Wayne, I have something special for you. I bet you will definitely like it. Zack Snyder and Robert laughed together, holding the iron box with the film in their hands. The two people pointed to the box in their hands with pride, but they didn't hand it to him after speaking. Instead, Zack Snyder took it away directly. What do they mean? The two people made Wayne a little confused and turned to look at the production manager. John also laughed, pointing at the backs of the two and said, Zach and the others should take the scene of you dancing back to add music or something. Remember to make a copy for me as a souvenir. This made him feel helpless. He didn't expect that they would have the time to take a photo at that time. Okay, whatever you want. The crew's huge motorcade began to drive on the streets of New York. It was still early, and it was not the time for most white-collar workers to get off work. Fortunately, there was no traffic jam, and they drove back to the hotel smoothly. After getting off the car, Wayne specifically asked Nina to go to the newsstand on the roadside to buy a few newspapers. He wanted to make sure whether this incident had caused too much impact. If there was really a stubborn media tabloid that gave Nicolas Cage the title of a drug addict, the crew would probably be harassed and investigated every now and then. Even the Merrill Lynch insurance representative who had been following the crew as a transparent person would probably withdraw the insurance that Warner bought for Nicolas Cage. Without the insurance, the Screen Actors Guild would definitely cause trouble again, so this was a series of troubles. After returning to the room, Nina read all the tabloids she could buy. It was true that everyone was hyping this matter, but there was no particularly sensitive guidance. It was just a funny thing about Hollywood stars who had their wallets ripped off when they first arrived in New York. This made Wayne feel at ease. As long as there were no uncontrollable consequences, he was not afraid of anything. As far as the current situation was concerned, Wayne was very satisfied with the filming. Compared with the small workshop-style crew he had put together the first time, the huge crew of Joker was obviously much more professional. Whether it was the heads of various departments or the director himself, they had made much progress compared to the first two films. Even the top players that he had not dared to ask for before were definitely not lacking in the crew now. According to the plan he had set at the beginning, after shooting the scenes on this street in 2 days, he turned around and started shooting the indoor scenes. After a few days of shooting, the crew became familiar with it and then began more and more tedious indoor scenes. Nicholas, you have neither superpowers nor super resources, and I will never let you show superpowers in this film. Although this is a well-known character in the DC universe, what you have to do is forget that this is a comic character and treat Arthur as a real person. In an apartment in downtown Manhattan, New York, it has been completely transformed by the props team and the set team, and divided into different areas. At this moment, Wayne is instilling his own filming concept into Nicolas Cage. Facing the scene that is about to begin, Wayne is not worried at all. He is worried that Nicolas Cage and his concept are at odds. After all, he is the performer of this film, and he must present the director's production concept. After the props around him were arranged, Wayne left the core of the camera shooting and watched Nicolas Cage's performance silently from a distance. In the monitor, Arthur was sitting at one end of the desk, and at the other end was a psychologist. I just think it would be better to be locked up in the hospital. Arthur spoke his thoughts to the psychologist, and the camera slowly moved forward, capturing Nicolas Cage's expression very clearly. If it wasn't still being filmed, Wayne would have applauded him for this performance. The black female psychologist had a blank expression on her face. Have you ever thought about why you were locked up? Cut. No problem. Get ready. Start the next one right away. Following the director's shout, the two actors did not move. The next scene was still here, but the post-production editing was to insert 2 sections of Arthur's fantasy in between. After Wayne shouted, the makeup artist also ran over to touch up the makeup for the two. With the sound of the script supervisor's board, the filming began again. Arthur suddenly laughed, and the psychologist looked at him. Why are you laughing? I thought of something interesting. After 2 simple lines of dialogue, Robert changed the focus of the shooting and pointed the camera at Nicolas Cage and the clock behind him. Wayne's face instantly darkened. He did not stop the shooting of this scene, but let the two finish this set of shots. Cut. Take a 5-minute break. Nicola and Kelly, you guys are doing great. Do it again later. After saying that, he walked to the clock hanging on the wall behind Arthur and looked up at the clock that didn't move. Zach, ask the props to get me a real clock that moves, not this fake one that looks fake at first glance. Confused, Zack Snyder took off the watch and almost cursed. This should be something from the Warner Brothers prop library. It is made of lime and can be used repeatedly as a movie background. Watching the assistant director hurried out with a clock, Wayne raised his hand and touched his stubble. Looking at the surrounding scenery, he began to think about the hidden lines to be arranged here. This clock is an important point. Do you think what you see is the truth? Wayne's purpose is to reveal a fact. In fact, everything you see is just Arthur's imagination. 10 minutes later, Zack Snyder ran back in a hurry, holding a new clock in his hand. The filming continued smoothly. From the beginning of the indoor scenes, the crew slowly found the best tacit understanding since the start of filming. When it was the end of October, Wayne unexpectedly found that the shooting schedule he had set was more than a week beyond the original plan. This was related to the fact that the crew was full of experienced hands, and also to the state of the actors and the behind the scenes running in of the crew. After a week of filming, Jonathan Keller, the executive president of DC, always came to visit every few days. He would not disturb anyone, but would just watch silently and chat with John. In fact, Wayne knew that the head of DC had seen the film he shot more than once, and the only place where he could see the film in full was the insurance copy of the production manager. Since Jonathan Keller, who had seen all the shots, did not raise any opinions, it could only mean one thing: he was very satisfied with what Wayne shot. At least it would not affect the existing layout of the comic company. In New York, the main scenes were still real scenes. The second group of members assigned by Wayne had shot many background shots under the occasional leadership of Zach. He hadn't started shooting the remaining larger street scenes yet, which involved closing roads in the downtown area, so he had to make a full plan. Just when Wayne began to think that he might end the real-life shooting in New York ahead of schedule, an accident happened before his plan. One of the assistant directors sent by Warner Brothers to the crew, Mr. Karen, had a major problem. He was arrested by the New York Police Department. In fact, the absence of this assistant director with a low presence would not affect the normal operation of the crew, but there would be a risk that the remaining street scenes could not be filmed. The New York City government wanted to terminate the contract they signed ahead of schedule. What the hell is going on? What did that idiot do? Wayne's voice was full of anger. He successfully controlled the crew. Although there was no shortage of shitty things, no one had ever come to him to solve it, and it never affected the shooting. He kept all the big street scenes and planned to shoot them together, especially the scenes at the end, which were very important. In fact, he didn't do anything. He just had a car accident. John rubbed his temple, his voice full of fatigue. He was rear-ended by a taxi and had a cut on his face. 2 policemen wanted to help him, but he refused with a panicked look. Damn idiot. The production manager suddenly cursed. Chapter 124. Tomorrow or an accident. I never know which will come first. Karen, you idiot. Bitch. Shit. Motherfucker. The production manager suddenly yelled, not only stunned Wayne, but also the assistant director and Nina who came over. John was definitely not a strong production manager. As the person with the most power in the crew, he had never even loudly criticized any employee. This was not in line with his usual personality. Hey, John. Reaching out his hands and pressing his shoulders, Wayne shook him hard twice to calm him down. I don't know what stupid things Karen, his colleague at Warner Brothers, did to make him so angry. Then what? The police sent him to the hospital? Why did they arrest him? Reaching out to block Wayne's hand on his shoulder, John took 2 steps back and sat on the chair behind him. He smiled bitterly with some helplessness. Wayne, you don't know what that idiot did. If he stayed quietly in the car, he could even ask the police to help call a doctor. This damn bitch, after seeing the police coming to inquire, he actually opened the car door in a panic and prepared to run. Thank you. John took the mineral water handed over by Nina, raised his head, and drank most of the bottle in one breath, and then continued. It was nothing at first, but when he ran away, the police knew there must be a problem, so they held him down and searched his car. When he said this, he threw the unfinished water in his hand directly to the ground. He stretched out his hand and rubbed his face hard. Several people around him suddenly understood, and Zack Snyder asked in confusion. Contraband? John raised his arm and waved it weakly. Yes, contraband. Wait. Wayne noticed something different. This matter didn't make sense. Even if there are contraband in Karen's car, the quantity can't be too much. Why hasn't she been released on bail yet? Joaquin, the lawyer sent by Warner to the crew, doesn't look like an incompetent idiot. This kind of thing may be a little less in New York, but it's not too rare. If it happens in Los Angeles, it's too normal. The police on duty in the rich area have their own set of rules for dealing with it, and no one will make a fuss. Those who can hide contraband in the car are Hollywood stars and film company executives, high-income groups like them. As long as the lawyer pays a high bail, basically nothing will happen. The biggest difference between Los Angeles and New York is just the attitude towards leaf tobacco, which is slightly different. After all, only Californians can legalize leaf tobacco. When Joaquin and I rushed to the police station, we realized that things were not as simple as we thought. John took out a piece of printed paper from his pocket, which clearly stated the reason why the police arrested Karen: drug possession and suspected drug trafficking. Nearly half a kilogram of leaf tobacco and a small bag of cocaine. What does he want to do? Sell it? These are nothing. The worst case is to give up on him. But when the police opened his car to check, the paparazzi passing by took a lot of photos. What a coincidence. Wayne thought to himself, if it was too coincidental, it stands to reason that the person who carries so many things is a film practitioner with a good income, and he has no reason to do so. If Karen carries a few hand-rolled cigarettes with her, it won't surprise Wayne, but Karen will know what the harm of powdered things is. From the contact with him, this is not a man with a sober mind. Unlike John, who has been running outside, Wayne plunged into the indoor scene and completely blocked all the outside sounds. At least in the past 2 days, he didn't care about anything other than filming. What's the situation now? Before he could finish his question, Steve ran over with a pile of newspapers. After putting them on the table beside him, he said breathlessly, "Our apartment is surrounded by media reporters, and more media are coming. They think we are a drug den." Pop. John slapped his forehead, his tone revealing helplessness. "The police also want to check our crew. They suspect that the things in Karen's car were brought to New York by the crew. It's over." At this moment, Wayne was wondering, why did the filming and production go smoothly at the beginning, but there were always various accidents that gave him a headache. Is there any curse on this film? Without reading the newspapers Robert brought back, he walked to the window and looked downstairs. He found that many reporters had come. At this moment, Wayne found that he really had a connection with these people. There would always be something that could attract them. It was as if he had just put all his energy into filming, and when he looked up, the weather changed. The reporter should have gone to the police station. "Calm down, John. We must find a way to solve this matter. If those tabloids bring up the Nicolas Cage incident again, then our crew will really become a drug den in the eyes of the public." After drawing the curtains, Wayne paced back and forth, and walked to the production manager to remind him, "No, all the bad things are coming." "Do you think this is all?" John shook his head violently, and looked up at his partner. "The New York City government called me, just after I left the police station. They want to end our contract in advance. Now only some media have sent the message. Wait, as long as the news is widely reported tomorrow, the New York City government will definitely not provide a filming location for a drug den crew. Those politicians care most about these image issues. Bullshit." The production manager reached out and slapped the newspapers on the table. On the top New York local tabloid, there was a photo of Karen being pinned to the ground by 2 policemen. Next to it was an open car door with contraband turned out inside. The huge front page headline read, "Karen Worster, the supplier of contraband for a huge crew," without looking through the contents. Wayne knew what horrifying things they had written, based on their guesses. It was nothing more than that assistant director Karen was the transporter of contraband for the crew, and there were all kinds of guesses about this huge crew. If Wayne were a general reader, he would also be interested in the interesting story of such a Hollywood filming team collectively taking drugs and selling drugs. The mysterious filming and production team, how corrupt it can be, has always been the most popular gossip news for the public, and these tabloids will never miss the opportunity to increase sales. This is just a small local media with quick reactions. When those daily morning newspapers and nationally circulated newspapers publish articles tomorrow, things will really start to ferment. Zach, remind everyone in the crew that no one can be interviewed. If anyone likes to communicate with the media, write it down and tell me later. Wayne's first reaction was to shut up the crew members. As long as they accepted the interview, no matter what they said, it would be distorted at this stage. Expecting these media reporters to have a bottom line, capitalists can all become great people who save people from suffering. The person who leaked the information last time has not been found yet, but it does not mean that Wayne has forgotten about it. As long as he finds the person who caused trouble for his work, Wayne will let him know what price he will pay for a few $100s of information fee. Wait, Zach, inform them that the crew will disband and take a break in the afternoon. It seems that we can't continue today, he shouted to the assistant director who was walking out in a hurry. Wayne looked back at the production manager. Not only John was like this, he also felt frustrated, but someone had to make a decision to solve the problem. If he, the director and producer, also panicked, the good state that the crew had worked out during this period of time would all become a bubble. Listen, John. Reaching out to look at the newspaper on the table, Wayne looked at these horrifying headlines expressionlessly. Let's go back to the hotel and sort things out first. No matter what happened, we need to work together to solve it one by one. This difficulty is by no means the end of the world. He had many doubts and guesses about the things behind this. Some things were enough to be guessed, and there was no need for evidence at all. But he couldn't spare any time now. He had to deal with the mess in front of him first. When it was over, Wayne would try to solve the doubts in his heart one by one. The large number of regular employees and temporary workers in the props group quickly packed up the arranged shooting equipment. As everything was moved onto the trailer little by little, the apartment soon became quiet. As the male lead of the film, Nicolas Cage was not in a hurry to go back. He was one of the most prestigious people in the crew besides the director and producer, so he came over with his agent Susan, wanting to find out what happened. Chapter 125. Don't say a word. When he learned that the crew might lose the filming location, the leading actor Nicolas Cage also felt helpless. He looked at these core members and was also thinking about a solution. Okay, let's go back to the hotel first, and we'll go back to discuss a solution. Wayne saw that everyone around him had left and asked everyone to go out together. There was no point in staying here. Through the window, he saw that the reporters were still there. They didn't get what they wanted, so they must not give up easily. These people were like leeches. They would never open their greedy mouths unless they sucked enough blood. When several people went down to the first floor, Wayne suddenly grabbed Nicolas Cage. Under the puzzled eyes of several people, he stared at him with a serious face and said, "No matter how the paparazzi provokes you, don't say a word. Remember, don't say a word. Think about it. If they connect this matter with what happened 2 weeks ago, what will be the consequences? Not only will the crew be regarded as a drug den by the public, you will also be labeled as an addict for life." After giving instructions, Wayne turned his eyes to his agent. "Keep an eye on your clients, Susan. I don't want any more trouble now." He didn't retract his aggressive gaze until the other party nodded to show that he understood, and then he took the lead to walk towards the door of the apartment. Not far away from the door, Sergey had already opened the car door. Seeing his boss and his group coming out, he immediately ran over and tightly protected Wayne, squeezed away the paparazzi who were like a collective nest, and tried to move to the front of the car. "Director Greenberg, are most of the people in your crew drug addicts? Do you also come here often? Wayne, you won't shoot without contraband, is this true? Nicolas Cage, are the contraband you usually take also provided by the assistant director of the crew?" Greenberg first. Even after getting into the car, the paparazzi still surrounded the car and asked loudly. Facing the slowly moving car, they were not afraid of death like warriors. If they could let this car hit them again, that would be one of the ideals of these paparazzi. They are too crazy. Are we going to let them frame us? Nina puffed up her angry face and spoke with a tone full of grievance for her boss. These damn paparazzi, can they be considered reporters? When the car finally slowly left the crowd and drove back to the hotel, Wayne shook his head. They don't need our answers at all. They just need to write stories that attract the public's attention. Now even if we say a word, it will change the explosive news headlines. This play has only been smoothly produced for about 3 weeks. So many twists and turns have occurred, which made Wayne, who only wanted to put his energy into the crew, aware of a very bad sign. Did the media reporters react too quickly? Even if the paparazzi took those photos, it would be impossible for so many tabloids to react, first going to the police station for interviews, and then coming to the crew to block the door. What is the purpose of these things happening? These questions have been spinning in Wayne's mind. He has thought about most of them, but he can only put them aside for the time being and solve the problems at hand. At least we can get an answer. The crew did stop working because of these things, and there is a possibility that they cannot continue because of accidents. The known consequences are that the production cannot be completed on time, let alone released on time. Trying hard to suppress the things in his heart, Wayne and his party walked into the hotel lobby surrounded by reporters again. Without any stop, they went straight to the director's suite in the elevator. Everyone understood that they had to do something now. Waiting would not have any good results. Ignoring the few people who were also sitting silently on the sofa, Wayne lit a cigarette and began to think. He was thinking about how to minimize the impact, at least to let the crew officially continue filming. Can we give up Karen? This was the first solution Wayne thought of. Since he couldn't solve the impact he brought, he might as well solve the person who brought the impact. John immediately replied, yes, even if we want to bail him out now, we still need complicated procedures, and the premise is that the D must agree that the amount of contraband he carries can be prosecuted. Hearing the production manager mention that the D was involved, Wayne immediately stopped having illusions about this person and simply let him stay in there for a few years. Well, let's sort out everything. After exhaling a large puff of green smoke, Wayne picked up a newspaper and a pen. The most important thing now is to deal with the New York City government. The crew can't stop working because of these messes. There are not many indoor scenes in New York. This part can be filmed back at Warner Studios. At least we have to sit down and talk with them so that we can finish the scenes that require road closures in the city center. Those big scenes are very important. If we go back to Los Angeles to set up the scene, the film will definitely face delays and overspending. He was writing and drawing on the newspaper and analyzing the most important things. Suddenly, Wayne turned his head and looked at John. I'm curious, why did Karen bring so many contrabands? Did you ask him when you and your lawyer went there? This was the most unreasonable part of the whole thing. The amount of things he brought was embarrassing. It was obviously too much for him to use, and if he sold them, the amount was not worth the risk. Besides, although he didn't know Karen's income, Wayne's experience was definitely not comparable to that of ordinary white-collar workers, and he had no reason to traffic. It was not convenient to talk in the police station at that time, but it was certain that he brought them for others, or he brought them from Los Angeles in a trailer. This is why the police wanted to search the crew. Give up on him, John. Because this crappy thing also required the crew to be searched, Wayne's curiosity was gone at the time. Whether it was a coincidence or deliberate, this person had been faded from his mind. Let Joaquin come back. When he comes back, you can all issue a statement through Warner. All of Karen Wurster's actions have nothing to do with the crew. Warner Brothers will investigate all the impacts of his actions on the crew. This may help to clear up some of the ties with him. After hearing Wayne's words, several people, including Nicolas Cage and his agent, shuddered and looked at him secretly. This is not just a simple giving up. This is to make the other party unable to turn over in his life. People born in this country know how powerful capital is. Even John, who was drinking water with a sad face, paused for a moment. He really wanted to give up Karen, but he didn't think that just to clear up a little bit of relationship, he would kick him into a deeper well. But he immediately realized that this was the only value left in Karen, and he had to squeeze it out to reduce the loss. I understand. I'll notify Joaquin to come back later and call Kevin. According to Wayne's own estimation, Kevin Tsujihara in Los Angeles must be annoyed. The crew spent money like water after coming to New York, and the filming work has not yet seen results, but it has caused so much trouble to the company. However, these are things that John should worry about. He has more important things to do. After seeing the production manager agreed, Wayne turned back and said to Zack Snyder, "You were the one who talked to the New York City government at the beginning. Now help me make an appointment with their person in charge. The sooner the better. It would be best if I could talk to them tomorrow morning. This is the most important thing at the moment, and it is also the most difficult thing to solve. The well-made plan must not be changed. At this time, if you want to persuade the New York City government to send a large number of police to help block the road and let the crew continue to shoot in the center of New York City, you can know how difficult it is just by thinking about it. Okay, I can guarantee that I can invite people, but the result is not something that my friendship with shooting commercials can determine." Zack Snyder nodded and agreed. He did spend several years in New York, and he also helped many departments of the city government shoot promotional videos, but he was just a director who mainly shot commercials, and he didn't have the face to do more. Of course, those politicians like Hollywood crews to come to New York to shoot, and this city can always appear in movies, which is also a great way to promote themselves. But politicians hate to be tainted by various scandals the most, which is the red line for all North American politicians. Their group is different from star directors. Being tainted by these things means a crisis in their careers. After discussing and watching them walk out one by one, Nicolas Cage also stood up and asked Wayne, "What do you need me to do?" "Just keep your mouth shut." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.